The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey there, everyone. My name is Ryan. I'm going to introduce you to Joe McNamee. And before I do that, I want to let you know that I met Joe about a year and a half ago. And when I first met him, I had been working in behind the scenes with other real estate investors, some of the gurus. And I've seen what goes on behind the scenes, and I know what they do and what they don't do, and I also knew what they said they did and also what they said they didn't do. And when I met Joe, I thought, man, this almost sounds too good to be true. And so I didn't really take him up on it, on the opportunity, and I wish I would have, because what I've done in the last couple of weeks and months with Joe and his help has really changed my life. I used to look at it at real estate as a vehicle to help me make a little bit of extra money and eventually someday retire, but I wasn't quite sure how to put all those pieces together. And then I met Joe, and Joe taught me exactly what I needed to do to go out and get my first deal, which I did. I brought in $21,500 on my first deal, spent about total of about 8.5 hours of work, and I owe all that to Joe. And that's why I'm here today. I want to introduce you to Joe, because Joe really, he has a way of looking at real estate and seeing all the possibilities that are there for you to make money that otherwise you'd be walking away from. You might make a deal, or you might make a deal or two and make a little bit of money, but Joe's going to teach you how he makes a ton of money. And that's what this is all about today. He's going to share with you exactly how he runs his business and how he's able to get every possible penny from a deal, and that's what he's going to actually share with you today. So before I get too carried away about this, I want to let you know that he's going to go ahead and share this information with you so that you can get started yourself. But if you have any questions, he's going to hang around afterwards and answer any questions you might have. So go ahead, and as a question does come up in your mind, go ahead and put the question in, type it into the question box, and we'll answer all those as they've come in towards the end of this webinar. But until then, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to Joe McNamee, my friend and my mentor, who is just brilliant when it comes to real estate investing. Joe, it's all yours.
Oh, calm down there, Ryan. You kind of scare me a little bit with all that. Yeah. I got to say something about Ryan. He's really sharp, and it's a pleasure to work with someone that I can tell what to do, and they do exactly what I say. Sometimes faster than I'm saying it. He kind of thinks faster than I speak. But it's kind of funny. When he first came with me, I said, now here's a surprise. If you're going to come and work with me on the training side of the business, my primary income is real estate investing and doing my deals. And so everyone that comes and works with me, they also have to be doing deals. You can't come and be on my staff and hang out with me and be exposed to all the things that is possible in real estate that you're learning and seeing and observing in my office, and not do it for yourself too. There's a huge red flag when there's a bunch of people around that are collecting $10, $15, $20 an hour, and there's all this wealth of information and they're not taking advantage of it. So in a lot of different places where you see people teaching real estate investing, the staff is an information marketing staff that are making pennies or peanuts compared to what can happen. So Ryan got a big shock to his pleasant surprise, but now he's moving his wife, and I was joking around with him, 3.5 kids, because his wife is pregnant. So they're moving all the way across the coast just to continue doing this. Okay, so let's take a look at what we're going to talk about here. I want you to realize that I don't really like the idea of people teaching a niche or learning a niche. I'm not about teaching you how to do let's just say a subject to or a seller finance deal or a multitude of all different types of things. I'm not about that. I'm about teaching you real estate investing as a business. This is a business, and you handle it as a business, and I want you to know at the very basic level, just like Ryan was saying, he spent 8.5 hours doing that one deal, and 8 of those hours were not necessary. He just doesn't know it yet. And as he gets used to this better, the 30 minutes is all it takes. And then, he also didn't tell you how much he spent, which, was less than $11 on that one deal. And that's the beginning of the money he's going to make off of that deal, or making off that deal. He'll continue to make a lot more money than that, but that's just the upfront money that he's made. But this is a business, and it's handled in such a way, so this is what I'm teaching you, is how to do this as a business. This is not a course about a niche or something like that. That's ridiculous seminar stuff that makes great theory and keeps bringing you back so they can continue selling you stuff. So let's go into this for a little bit here. So what I'm going to cover is owning a business doing this. And by the way, it's not scary. A lot of businesses that people go out there and try to start, a great example is the restaurant business. Oh my gosh, what a scary business. Long hours, all kinds of problems. Murphy lives everywhere, lots of expenses up front before you start making any kind of a profit at all. But I'm going to show you a 3-step method. I'm going to show you the pros and cons of each and how to accelerate that process. So, Ryan's going to go from doing 8.5 hours on a deal down to a half an hour on the same kind of deal. And then that 30 minutes or so is going to spawn 5 to 6 more deals coming just from that one. So there's always a better way. So let's use this analogy, this little example here, an acre of ground. So when you talk about an acre of ground, we're talking about this as real estate, and I'm going to use this as an example of how long it takes to actually till that acre. So in a day, that's where the acre kind of came from. In a day, an oxen or a horse, a mule type plow plowed an acre a day. So you get an idea of a representation of the size of an acre by looking at that football field. Take the end zones out and about 10 more yards, and that's about approximately an acre. So you can go out there and spend all day long tilling an acre of ground, or you can do it in an hour. It just depends on the piece of equipment that you have available to you, the tools in your toolbox. All right, so the choice is yours. And by the way, there's no rewards for going slower. I'm just telling you. You just got to think about it. Every time I go online and I see real estate investors struggling, I visualize that left picture. I see them talking about stuff. I see them posting things out there, about a property for sale. I see them listing the price on the property for sale. Last thing in the world you should do. I watched a post today. I didn't say anything about it. I just watched it where a person's asking what's the best way of pulling comps. The last thing in the world you want to do is get an appraisal, a comparative market analysis, or a broker's price opinion. But everyone believes in the conventional wisdom world that those are the primary ways. That's the worst way to determine value of property. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you there's a much, much better way, and I'm going to show it to you. The first, this picture, I don't know where in the heck they grabbed this picture from. They put together this slide deck. But this picture, it looks like the guy's wearing a leisure suit to me, and I definitely know what a leisure suit is. I wore them back in the 70s, but anyway, that's a whole nother story. So a little bit about me. I've done the ox plow. I like to refer to it as the blood, sweat, and tears. I've spent a lot of time and effort doing real estate deals the hard way, and I made a lot of money. But the truth is, when I reflect back on those deals over, 4 decades of doing this stuff, I see a table, and I also see a room full of money that was left on the table and in that room because I didn't know back then what I know now. If I could only have gone back and shown myself. Matter of fact, if I could go back and tell my grandparents and their friends and my parents just a few little tweaks to what the things that they had been doing in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, they were doing stuff, buy and hold, fix up and sell, holding seller finance and all that kind of stuff 20 and 30 years before that stuff was even being taught. But if I could go back and just whisper in my ear or their ear, it would have made things a whole lot better. By far, the tractor system is a much better way of doing it, and it's faster. I like to show you the fastest ways to build enough wealth so that you can retire quickly. All right, so how I got started. My first deal I was involved with it, deeply involved with it, very actively involved with my parents, and I was 6 years old. I wrote about it in my book here. But I remember that first deal at 6. messing with that, dealing with all kinds of problems. And, my mom would negotiate a deal with a disgruntled landlord where the property was in total disarray, usually back then we called it the ghetto, today it's called a war zone. And we would move in, one room would get cleaned up by my mom and my sister. We would all move into one room and we'd work on the house. So they'd negotiate a purchase price, mom would, from the landlord, and to buy this property, and then we'd fix the property up. My dad would negotiate, we're not going to pay any rent, we're going to repair the property, and then mom would put the property up for sale that she did not own, find a buyer, and go to a back-to-back closing, buying it in the morning and selling it in the afternoon without using any money. Now, of course, what I'm talking about is not that type of thing. I'm just telling you where I came from. So that's how I kind of got started in real estate. The truth is, sitting around the dinner table, with my family, you either talked real estate or you talked construction, or you weren't worth listening to. So sitting at my grandparents' table, I was telling Ryan this earlier. There was two couples. One's name was Eva and Frank. I can't remember their last name, and the other one was Calvin and Nanabelle. I know those are kind of, some of that's kind of funny names, but whatever. But these two couples would come and hang out at my grandparents' house, and we'd all sit down at the dining room table, eat dinner, talk about their deals. And I'm a little kid now. Listen to this. I'm 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years old through time. A lot of times I had to live with my grandparents because of things that happened in my family. But sitting there and listening to them talk about their deals was pretty interesting. And then after everything was done, then my grandmother would say, okay, what game are we going to play? And then she'd reach behind her after the dishes were cleared. She'd reach behind her and pull open a drawer in a credenza sitting there. And, there'd be like pickup sticks, or, we'd play concentration or rummy or pinochle, or, whatever, all different kinds of games. And yes, as a little kid, I knew how to play pinochle and, all that kind of stuff. So it was put into me back then of real estate and how to do deals in any economy. So I would constantly be picking up on things that happened, and it stuck with me. Why it stuck with me, I have no earthly idea. But I remember the details to this day so plain and clear, and some of the things that worked really well in the 70s and early 80s went away for, decades, and then came back. I brought back in the around 2008 when the crash happened in the conventional wisdom world, which that crash meant that we made even more money in real estate deals. So in my early teens, I started doing a lot of home repairs for others. They were family members, friends, neighbors, different people that knew that I knew how to do stuff that they didn't, and so they'd seek me out because I was cheap. But then I got into structuring deals, showing them how to structure, showing them how to get their property sold. And, you're talking about, I'm like in 8th and 9th grade at this time doing all this kind of stuff, and some before that even. So through time, I kept looking through my early life, I kept looking at, man, I was afraid, and my parents were afraid, and my grandparents and Calvin and Nanabelle were afraid, but Eva and Frank were not. All the rest of us were afraid to do real estate primarily as our source of income. None of us felt comfortable doing that, so we did it as side things where, it was a side income, and it was out of desperation we used profits that we made from real estate to kind of bail us out of situation. Well, Eva and Frank weren't that way. They were that carefree, happy-go-lucky couple that just had fun, and they would buy row homes in Philadelphia, and they'd buy them for around $6,000 or $7,000, and then they'd do a couple $100 worth of repairs, which was a lot of repair work doing with just a few $100s back then, and then they'd sell them for $15,000 to $20,000 with seller financing. But they had plenty of money. They were always had money coming out their ears. So I was afraid to do this. My parents, my grandparents were afraid to do this as, the sole thing. So I looked for a way of receiving an early retirement check in life and have my hospitalization covered, me and my wife. So I decided to join the Army. real estate was always stayed my focus. Everywhere I was stationed, I was doing real estate deals in the States. I did a few overseas. It was very scary. I didn't like that too much, but the ones in the States, no big deal at all. So I continued messing with real estate. Right at the end of my military career, I went ahead and bought an entire neighborhood, and I built my own house by myself. My son worked on it with me. He was about 16 at the time, because he was driving. But he came for 2 weeks during the summer. He didn't live with me. He lived with his mom. And we framed the entire house up. The house is 4,500 square feet, and it took me 7 months turnkey to finish the house and move in. But should I have done that? Was that the best use of my time? Hell no. But I was a man, and my testosterone kicked in, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. Because I said I can do it, I'm definitely going to do it. So now it's time for retirement day. Now I can focus full-time on real estate and on my construction company. So here's the crazy thing. When 2008 hit in that recession, I started paying attention to the number of deals that I had done, and I went back and looked at, just kind of looked and scraped and trying to figure out how many deals, started counting them up, and then I started paying attention to how many I was doing during the worst recession since the Great Depression. And the truth is, more than half of those, right now I'm at, it's like 4,124 deals or so, but more than half of those have been done since 2008, so during the worst recession possible. So, Jackie Chan's got the great, I see this look that he's doing right now as, how in the hell is that possible? Well, it's business basics. So you have to understand some things about this. You have to understand that no matter what you're doing with real estate, you're always selling. When I'm buying real estate, I'm selling. So if I'm buying real estate, that doesn't mean I'm writing a check. I'm not using anyone's money. I'm not using a private money lender, a hard money lender. I'm not borrowing money from a bank. And I'm buying, but when I'm buying, I'm still selling to that seller. All right? So you got to understand that your time should be spent marketing and selling. Every business out there is in the marketing business. You've heard that a million times from different marketers, teaching that kind of thing, but it is the truth. And if you trace back to all businesses failing, most of it has to do with not enough sales. And that sale could be the way they bought it. And that's what happened starting 2008 with a lot of investors. It wasn't that they couldn't get the sale that paid them enough money. It was that they bought it wrong. They didn't understand that. So every type of business has these peaks and valleys, this cycle to pay attention to. And in this chart right here, if you look at your peaks are when you're making money, when the sales are happening, or when you're buying and you've made a sale because you bought it right. The valleys are when you're spending time marketing. So in this example, it's 2 months. Now, I know that there's people out there who are spending 2, 5, 10, no, not 10, but 2, 5, 7 years of no sales. And so that's a huge gap in that valley there. And I know that's painful for people. You shouldn't have any of that. It should be much, much, much more of a peak system going on for a very short period of time where you're just kind of taking a breather in your valleys. So this is the point in time where you're either selling or you're marketing, because you can't do both. One's going to suffer in that kind of world. All right? So that's the typical business. Here is tons of peaks and valleys in the real estate business. It's no different than any other business. So if you can just kind of study that just for a second there, that is the peaks and valleys that I'm referring to in the previous chart, and it refers to real estate directly. Okay? So what's my secret? I've been exposed to real estate for the past 40 years and can recall techniques that worked for my parents and grandparents, like I was explaining to you earlier. And I have a business system that does the marketing for me, so all I have to do is sell. I sell when I'm buying, and I sell when I'm selling. And I sell when I'm communicating with other professionals who are promoting my business for me, and it doesn't cost me anything for them to promote my business. So, a person was asking me today on the phone, how much money does she need for marketing this business? And I said, well, for me, I spend less than $500 per year. She goes, what? Per year. Because other people market my business. They want to connect with me. I turn myself into the local hero, solving problems that no one else can do, and I do that for my students in their areas. So when they become the local hero, other professionals want to instantly connect with that so that they can ride that and have a solution for the people that come through their office that they can't do anything for, but they can point them in a direction where some sort of solution can happen by going to that local hero. So here's one of the things I'm asking you right now is, do you want to know what the simplified way to build a real estate investing business? How to build a business that operates without you. Number one, decide how much money you need and want to live off of monthly. Now, you have to be sensible about this. In the very beginning when you're building this, you're not answering that question like, okay, well, I want to be able to buy 2 Gulfstream jets and own a yacht and travel around the world 4 times a year. That's not a sensible state. What maintains your current standard of living, maybe gives it a little bump there, but what does that dollar figure look like to you? What do you need that to be? The second thing is accumulate enough cash flowing properties that generate your desired monthly cash flow number. Figure out what it is that you need to accomplish what number 1 is. All right. Now, all you got to do is sit back and cash the checks as they come in, but more importantly, continue to grow what you already put in place that currently maintains your standard of living, so that then as you increase the number of deals or the number of number 2s coming in, then that increases your standard of living, or your, the money that you want to spend on more leisure and fun. So how do you get there? There's 3 main ways to invest, and I'm going to throw a 4th one at you at the same time. So there's wholesaling. There's fixing and flipping. Very ugly terms there, and I'll tell you why in just a little while. Buy and hold, landlording. I'd rather have 2 root canals without Novocaine than ever be a conventional landlord again. I did that many, many, many years ago. So those are the 3 ways. And the 4th way I'll throw at you in a few minutes. So what's wholesaling? What's the pros of it? It's quick cash. It's quick paydays. The cons? No residual income. There's lots of work to maintain the lifestyle. You need to find and build lists of cash buyer investors. And by the way, that's the smallest segment of the market, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But the worst thing is the market is flooded with competition. One of the things that, before I jump on here, I hit the slide, but before I jump on, I like to describe wholesalers as people who are in, think about a room full of hungry dogs. There's 50 hungry dogs in this room that's maybe, a couple hundred square feet. And in the corner, there's a plate with food on it that's enough, like a regular dinner's plate. And that plate's filled up with food, and there's 50 of these dogs that haven't eaten in 2 weeks. So they're all devouring that food, going after it, and each one's just getting a little bit of crumbs. Maybe a couple of them are getting there faster than everyone else and getting a little bigger mouthful. That's what I see the wholesaling business, because everyone's trying to do wholesale because they don't know how to do anything else, and they think that the economy says you can't do anything else. Nothing could be further from the truth. But in this room, over in the opposite corner, there's this cabinet that's locked. The dogs don't know how to get into this cabinet, but in that cabinet is a 50-pound bag of dog food. So all of those deals, so let's take it from the dog food, from the wholesaler deals on that plate, all these tremendous number of profitable deals are sitting in a corner in the same room that these wholesalers exist in, but they don't know how to open up that door. Well, I have the key. I know how to open that door. I keep that door open in my business, and my students know how to open that door up and gain access to that 50 pounds of food. So one of the big problems, now I'll jump back into the slide again, one of the big problems with cash buyer investors is you notice the drop from 2005 to, 2014, I'm sorry. I didn't have my glasses adjusted just right. but there was almost a drop, not quite in half, about 36% drop there in cash buyers. All right, so that's the smallest segment of the market. Today's market is a much, much smaller market, of course. And so now let's kind of look at the map of cash buyers, where they're located at. So this is a Zillow's representation of where cash buyers are laying. So not all cash buyers are equal, and a lot of people who are trying to jump into the wholesaling business don't really realize this, because they see, oh my gosh, there's, all these millions of cash buyers out there. Well, the problem is that they're baby boomers. They're seeing baby boomers out there, according to Bloomberg. These baby boomers are retiring. And the problem with that is, yes, you're going to make a sale to a baby boomer, possibly, if you're one of those lucky dogs that's in the front of the line trying to get to that plate. But here's the problem. It's a one-off deal. That's it. Because they're not investors. They're just wanting a house to move into because they're retiring. Their retirement home is what they're choosing. Okay, so now let's look at where the baby boomers are at. Starting to look familiar? All right, so now we've got areas of cash buyers, and we've got where the baby boomers are at. So now you're starting to see that a lot of these cash buyers are actually baby boomers out there, and very few of them are buyer investors. And if they are buyer investors, they're trying to buy it for peanuts. So notice the connections here. See how they're in such a tight-knit group there. All right, so very few cash buyers are end or investors. Okay? That is a tremendous statement. That should be a huge eye-opener to you for wholesaling. Now, did I say never do a wholesale do? No, of course I didn't say that. I'll just show you how to make a whole lot more money off those same exact deals. Instead of making, a few $1,000s off of it, I'll show you how to make tens of thousands of dollars off the same deal by you just structuring it just a little bit different. Okay? All right, now let's go into the fix and flip. So the pros, it's a big payday, maybe, if Murphy doesn't swim up there and destroy your world. And Murphy loves that world right now and has for, gosh, a good 7 years. The con, takes too long. It's much riskier. It requires lots of money. You need a team. And there's so many costly entanglements. I just looked at a property today with Ryan. I was helping him out deciding on another property, and we went to it together. And it's a person who is an investor, sort of, and they spent so much money trying to fix this property back up after they had bad tenants in it. They just didn't know how to position themselves properly to where they don't have to worry about that. Costly entanglements is huge. The Motley Fool says, fixing and flipping houses is harder to pull off than you might think. Way, way harder. There's so many problems. The money's just not available, and the money that is available is at such a smaller amount than what you really need that it forces you to make bad decisions. So why don't you want to flip homes? Well, number one, you're going to deal with this. Now, this guy, this is Justin Pierce. He's a reporter for the Washington Post, and he decided to go try it one time. So he started trying to raise capital and found that nobody wanted anything to do with real estate, and certainly not flipping. And then it was referred to this particular property. It was a war zone that he was told. And, I don't want to buy stuff in war zones either. I don't want to deal with that. I certainly know the difference. There are many times where I'll make a lot of money off of houses that are in places and looking just like that without me doing anything at all. I'll spend, less than $11 and make, that place right there is typically somewhere around a $3,500 up front, and then probably somewhere around $20,000 to $50,000 off of it total. But nobody wanted anything to do with it. There's no one that was going to loan him any money, and he's not naive to how to raise money. He understands that, but just wasn't possible. Okay, so now let's get into the buy and hold landlord. So the pros, there's monthly cash flow in that. I love monthly cash flow. I don't like to kill that goose that lays the golden egg. Oh my gosh, I just hit that too far forward for you. I think I was able to bring it back. Yeah. Okay, so you don't have to be too smart to do this business. I make a fool of myself all the time. So the con is landlord problems. Like I said, I'd rather have 2 root canals without Novocaine than ever be a conventional landlord again. Limited cash flow. You've got to deal with vacancies, upkeep, repairs, maintenance, that the whole 9 yards there. That can be extremely ugly. So according to Investopedia, sorry about that, guys, there's 11 mistakes inexperienced landlords make, and I'll tell you there's 100 of them out there, but this is a short list. Not running adequate checks on a potential tenant, thinking the property will always be rented. That's a big one right there. Underestimating the cost of repairs or ongoing property maintenance. I can't tell you how many times people estimate the repairs and then double the number, and they're still wrong. You probably are shaking your head. Yes, I've been down that road. I've done that pain and suffering before. And viewing it as a hobby. That's right. This is not a hobby. This is a business. When you start viewing it as a business, it will become much easier. You'll spend a whole lot less time with it, and it will be a whole lot more efficient and make you a lot more money. Relying on a handshake. Never, ever do that. You've got to have stuff in writing. Asking illegal interview questions. Now, that'll get people in a lot of hot water there. Not paying attention to tenants, neglecting them when they have problems, what have you. Not meeting state and local housing codes. Delaying an eviction. Oh, my gosh. My wife and I have learned that when we've tried so hard to help people, and some people you have to make sure that line in the sand is drawn long and deep. And when they step over it, it's not your fault. They made a mistake. They got to go. Not enforcing the lease terms. They kind of go hand in hand. And again, not writing it down. It's the same thing as relying on a handshake. All right. So how do all these components, how do all these things complement each other? How do they go together? So there's 3 stages of real estate investing. You've got the grind. That's the hard part, just kind of getting started. Then you got this growth part where you're starting to grow with it, starting to flow with it, and you're still not making any money off of it. You're doing okay. And then you get to the gold. So what are all 3 of these referring to? You've got your wholesaling in the grind, you got your fix and flip in the growth, and then you eventually get to the gold by the buy and hold. The big idea of each is wholesaling to build enough wealth to begin to do some fix and flips, build enough wealth in a fix and flip, build enough wealth, and have enough properties to begin to landlord. Oh, my God, that's scary. I hate that sound. I picture ugly visits to the dentist when I see the landlord word. And then have enough cash flow to retire in the buy and hold. Okay, wholesaling is the grind. It's a small piece of the pie. You have to keep on grinding to make enough to hit the next step. 3 to 5 years is a pretty good time for someone getting started to try to use it to get themselves to the next level. Now, are there a couple people out there that luck out and make a lot of money off of a wholesale deal? Yes, there are. Most of them that are online that tell you they made a ton of money are sharing a lot of that money with some partners. So the real truth is a very small percentage of what they made is what went in their pocket. The fix and flips is slower but a bigger payday. You still have to work for each one. I mean, work and work hard. 5 to 15 years of doing that to grow yourself to the point of being able to get to this next step, which is the buy and hold. Now you can collect the money as it comes in monthly. So you spent, 15, 20, 25 years trying to really and truly get to this point. And I can't tell you how many disgruntled landlords come into my world based on my marketing, and that's exactly what they've done. And this slide right here says 15 to 30 years. I've got some that are in their 70s who've been doing it since they were a teenager, and they absolutely hate it. They have clothes that they soaked with diesel and full of holes, and they're not misers. They definitely are busting their butt in their 70s, still trying to hang on to what they got. What if? Okay, here comes the what if. What if there was a way to profit from all the good that comes from the real estate investing in each of these 3 stages all at once? Let's call it a super tractor. Remember the horse pulling the plow versus the tractor doing it, so all day long versus 1 hour for that acre of ground, but not having to wait for years. or deal with any of the downside hassles or problems associated in each of these stages, 3 stages. Now, I know this all is fixing to sound too good to be true, but I'm going to tell you something. I do it all the time, and I do it right in front of people constantly, and all of a sudden they slap themselves in the face and the head, and they go, my God, where have you been? So, and I've been right here doing deals. That is what I'm referring to. Imagine, I want to just go drive that tractor. Isn't that the coolest looking thing? I just want to feel the accomplishment of what that tractor does. I know it kind of sounds goofy. Some of you people are going, Joe, I don't want to hop in a tractor. Well, if you look at that kind of tractor right there, if that tractor is heated and cooled inside, everything's all automatic, power steering. You're not shifting through gears and all that, and there's no clutch and everything to worry about, all that kind of stuff. That's a breeze to drive. I'll tell you a little story. I let my mom drive one of my tractors one time. We have a pretty big, spread of land and all. I guess you'd call it like a mini ranch type thing. But I was on the tractor, and I was using it, and my cell phone had fallen off of my belt. It was clipped on my belt, and it was sitting there on the tractor. So I talked her into getting on it, and she's riding the tractor, doing a little bit of cutting with it. And all of a sudden, I realized my phone was gone, and I looked around, and poof, there it was in the yard, right where she had, started driving, and my cell phone had fallen, and it was in 1,000 pieces. So I picked all the pieces up that I could get, stuck it in a little baggie, and I was walking up to her, and, she felt bad about what happened. It was like, I didn't care. It's no big deal, but I was acting like people were calling me, and I was trying to answer the baggie, open the Ziploc so that I could hear them a little bit better and all, but it was pretty funny. But anyway, sorry about that. I jumped off track for you. All right, so there's 3 stages in one is what I'm telling you. There's a way to shortcut the grind, the growth, and the gold all into one simple method. So what I teach people how to do is handle any kind of real estate coming at them at the basic level. That's the first thing you learn from me. We don't get into a niche and you learn that for a while and you come back months or years later and you've had all these possibilities of deals that you can't get back, but there's a ton of money that you could have made that were thrown at you, but they weren't the type of deal that you knew how to do. No, that's not right. We're going to make you know exactly what to do. I'm going to force your success by you knowing exactly what to do no matter what kind of deal is being thrown at you at the very basic level. So here's what I do. I'm the real estate matchmaker. I build a list of buyers. I find houses to sell to those buyers. I market those houses to the list of my buyers, plus I market the houses out there to grow my list of buyers even larger. So I sell the house to the end buyer in such a way to give me upfront money, monthly cash flow, and back-end profit. I don't want to wholesale it. I don't want to get into costly entanglements and spend a bunch of money on fixing and flipping and dealing with a property for months. I don't want any of that. There's no sense in that. I've done all that stuff many, many, many times. And remember me describing the table that I described that I agonized over back years ago, or the entire room filled up with money that was left there because I didn't structure it right, because I didn't have me talking to me when I was doing that in that day. As my son would say, my oldest son, it was a minute ago. Back in the day, a minute ago. But anyway, strategy versus tactics. My strategy never changes. The tactics and techniques change over time based on market conditions and the problems I'm solving for the buyer, the seller, and the professionals that come into my office. I'm solving their problems also, which gets them to market my business for me for free. So I look for the mathematical window of opportunity. I love this slide. Ryan found this slide, and I for years I always make the description of a window opening up with my hands, stepping through it. When the mathematical window of opportunity is open, I'm in. When it's not, I'm not in. I'm not going in that. So this is a great picture that describes exactly what I'm talking about. Here's another reason why my deals work. People are still holding on to outdated and false information about investing. By the way, excuse me if you hear me swallowing water. I kind of get dry when my mouth gets dry when I'm doing this talking. But anyway, they're holding on to a bunch of crap out there that's being told to them. This one here is a good one. I decided to just pick on one thing that's being taught, just to give an example. I could pick hundreds of examples being taught as theory out there in events. It's great. It sounds like great theory out there, and it sells a lot of information. That's not who I am. I don't make money mostly off of selling information. Most of my profit comes from my real estate deals, and then I allow people to watch over my shoulder while I do my deals. So I make a little bit off of the training, but most of my income is not off of selling information. So this is the Mayo formula. Mayo stands for maximum allowable offer. So you start off with the ARV. That's the value of the home when there's no repairs necessary, when it's all done, it's all fixed up. So the after repaired value times 70% minus the cost of repairs equals the amount that you should be offering on that deal. So that formula has been taught for years, and I teach it to my students only so that they understand the language that other buyer investors who are coming into their world are using and following. But I also show them where that is the biggest line of crap anybody has ever told anyone, and people think it's the greatest thing in the world. So here's my case in point. This property right here was a deal that two brothers that came into me. Their names Derek and Kevin, and this one does the best job showing why the Mayo formula is not important and does not apply. Why you would leave a ton of money on the table and in the room if you followed that advice, that formula advice. So they came to me with this deal. It was one of their first deals. So the asking price of the house was $25,000. So now let's just apply that formula. So the value of that house, all fixed up, was only $65,000. Now this is in a small town. This is not in a suburb of a large city. This is a small town, so those numbers are accurate. So $65,000 times 70% minus the house needed $40,000 worth of repairs, which made the Mayo, the maximum allowable offer, is $5,500. And since 2008, even in that Mayo formula, people will always say, never pay Mayo. In other words, they want you to pay less than the maximum allowable offer. So, a deal like this, probably $4,000 would be the common offer that would be made. So, what would you offer on that place? $5,000, 10, 15? We offered $25,000, the full asking price. Now you're looking at it going, I know where that word "fool" came from. You're a fool for offering that. Well, don't be so smart about it. Don't be so quick about it. And no payments and no interest with a 5-year balloon. Now, yes, Dodd-Frank has changed to where balloons are not applicable right now, but you don't have to put the balloon in there. So this house was set up with no payments and no interest for 5 years, which means that Derek and Kevin, I set it up for them to buy this house for $25,000. Now, if we had offered this person $4,000 or $5,000 or $10,000, $15,000, I'm absolutely positive they wouldn't have taken the offer. But we solved their problem. We gave them light at the end of the tunnel, hope, and we gave them full price on it that no one else could possibly do. So all the competition couldn't come close to what we're offering them. We're just asking them to hold off, be patient with us while we work with this property. So before we closed on this, before we closed on buying the property, or the brothers did, we found the end buyer. So they did exactly what I told them to do. They found the end buyer who paid them $1,700 down, and the agreement was going to be for $650 a month, and they'll do all the repairs on the house. So now I want you to think about this. Before we go to closing, before we commit to the property, I want the buyer in place who has paid us up front. So the buyer paid the $1,700 down and is agreeing to pay $650 a month and do all the repairs. Then we went to closing, did the deal of the $25,000, no payments, no interest for 5 years. So now look at the $650 a month that started coming in immediately for 60 months. That's $39,000. Is that more than $25,000? Yes. Plus you add the $1,700 down payment, so that put it $40,700. All right. Plus you take a look at, so you take the $25,000 off of what's going to the seller, and they could set it up where they could pay the seller along the lines and pay them down, or they could wait until they got down the road 3 years and then pay the seller off. They could let it go 5 years and then renegotiate some longer terms again, a million different things. But meanwhile, day one, they're making money off of this property. All right, so why was this a good deal? That we sold it for $65,000, which is what the value was. After all the repairs are done is what the value was, but we sold it for $65,000 in its current condition. We bought it for $25,000, and you saw the terms, and the end buyer to this day is still in there. They have bought all the material, done all the repairs. They haven't finished doing all the work on it, but it's okay. We're continuing to make money, and if by some chance the end buyer goes back on their word, screws up, does something wrong, we say cha-ching. That's a much, much, much better position to be in. Okay. So thus far, there's a $15,000 profit, and that was a while back. There's even more. All right. So the big lie is, in the seminar business, the riches are in the niches. If I can bring you in to a niche and teach you a niche and get you convinced that you need to learn this niche, and then while you're there, come into this 3-day event to learn about this one niche, then have 6 different people get on stage that whole time and try to sell you on another thing and another thing and another thing to take your focus off of what you originally were coming there to do. It'll keep you in a whirlwind until I can keep charging and charging your credit card until you have no more money left on it to run up. That's not right. And the riches in real estate is not a niche. It's in understanding how to structure multiple different types of deals. So you're going to understand multiple different niches from me in just one 3-day training session. The niches, when you're doing 1 or 2 of those, you're back to that peaks and valleys thing, which means feast and famine. It's not always going to work. There's not a person out there, there's not but a handful of people out there that are making a ton of money off of wholesaling. The other 98.5% of the people are starving to death in those valleys. The market shifts, it leaves you without an income. It's not hard to understand that, and so we'll go back to that same peak and valley slide. Remember how that chart looked. Okay, so let me use an analogy here. Let me try to, remember I'm heavy in construction and heavy in real estate. So I'm going to tell you what went on with construction, and maybe this will help drive this point home of not focusing on just one of anything. So in the construction world, in the olden days, there were general contractors who had people on their staff, people that worked, employees that worked for them that were, maybe one guy was an electrician, one guy was a plumber, and one guy was a roofer, and one guy was a framer, and on and on and on. That was the way that the old general contractor was, and that was a nightmare because there were a ton of employees. It was very difficult to handle all those employees. So each one of those different things, each one of those different trades, think of those as a niche in real estate investing. Maybe one is lease purchase, maybe one is a subject to purchase, maybe one is seller financing, maybe one is fix and flip, on and on and on. Okay, so then there came the tailgaters in the construction world. Now, a tailgater was a term used by my dad, and I don't know if it to this day is known out there. I don't know if you could Google it and find out what that meant in that way or not, but this is what it was. They would come up in a pickup truck, and there'd be several people in there to handle one trade for you. So this is the 50s and 60s, and so that related to the modern day subcontractor. That's kind of like the beginning of where subcontractors came from. So they specialized in work. They specialized in just doing slabs, foundations, just framing, just sheetrock, just finishing of sheetrock, just. So the individuals. Well, here's the problem. They would get into this specialized thing. They were able to do the work cheaper than the guy who tried to have all those people on his staff. Because they were faster at it. They had just the tools necessary to do that, so they didn't have large overhead, so they could do everything cheaper doing that one task. All right, so as the competition got fierce, obviously people were wanting to spend less money on getting the same thing accomplished. But here's where the problem comes into play with that world. each one of those subcontractors or tailgaters were able to work their butts off and get a whole bunch of jobs, and then it would end. And poof, all of a sudden they're unemployed. So they're feasting for a while, and then it jumps into famine because there was not enough work for them to keep them going the entire time through any economy, through any change, through shortage of materials, through weather conditions. Think about if you're doing concrete work outside all the time and you get into like an El Nino condition where it rains straight every day for 2 months solid. You're not going to be outside working. You're not going to be roofing. You're not going to do this, that, or the other. So doing one of anything, you feast and you famine. All right? So now, in my construction company, what I did was I took people, brought them on my staff, and I taught them, I forget how many trades are now. I think it's like 52 trades or 38 trades, something like that, different trades to build one house. And so I taught them all to be multi-talented. So my framers were also my trim carpenters, were also my cabinet installers, could also do sheetrock, could also do flooring, could roofing, siding, on and on and on. And so I did that with multiple different people on my staff where each individual became multi-talented. So they never went into that valley point. They always had multiple different directions that I could put them because they didn't do just one of anything. They were structured in such a way that no matter what, they could work 40 hours a week, and we worked Monday through Thursday, 10-hour days, and then on Fridays and Saturdays they could work side work, different things I had going on, and then Sundays we'd give them off. What I would do is I would buy fixer-uppers. I'd buy real estate, buy houses, and I'd hold on to them, wait for inclement weather, and I'd wait for in between my regular jobs in my construction company. And so when those breaks in time happened, then I'd shoot my construction crews over to different houses, and then they'd work inside. If it was inclement weather or whatever, they'd fix up the place, do the things that I needed them to do after I taught them what it is I wanted them to do, made them multi-talented, so they never went without work. So that's the same exact thing. That cross-training is what I'm telling you that I'm doing for you in the real estate world. So anything that comes at you, any type of deal that's thrown at you, you'll know how to structure it right off the bat by the things that I teach you. So why would you limit yourself to just one tactic or technique? That's crazy. That's leaving tons of money on the table. I want you to pick up tools to help you accomplish that goal. That's what I'm trying to get you. I'm teaching the strategies, showing you the tools. Here they are. Pick them up. You can accomplish whatever comes your way. You know exactly what to do with it. There's no sense of being like the guy in the picture, just left holding the bag, watching everyone around you learning how to do this from me, and you're not. So it's just crazy to let your competition get ahead of you. You have to understand, the economy is a moving target. It will never stop moving. There's people sitting there still to this day waiting for the economy to change, waiting for banks to be able to write checks again like they used to in 2007 before they get back out there in real estate again. So what are they doing? They're working at Lowe's and Home Depot and waiting tables or sitting at the house or whatever the case may be, waiting for the economy to change. It's crazy. There's a ton of opportunity. When there's chaos, that's where opportunity lies. There's a lot of chaos that started in 2008. So in my world, 2007 is really, really, really good economy. We made a lot of money. But in my world, 2008 and on, we made way more money than we did in 2007 in that type of economy, because I understand that target is constantly moving, and I show you how to keep aiming and lining up with that target no matter where it goes, no matter what it does. Why is now the best time ever? It's never been easier to do a deal in this economy for many different reasons, but the primary one is banks cannot write checks like they used to. When the secondary market dried up, the banks stopped being able to write checks, and so they could not do the deals they used to do. They can't take the types of information that they used to be able to take. So there means that tons of people can't move their houses. They're over-leveraged, over-financed in the conventional wisdom world of, the CMA, the BPO, or the appraisal, and no one knows what to do with those. We pick them up all the time and make plenty of money off of them, solve the seller's problem and solve the buyer's problem, and make everyone happy doing it. They just don't have the knowledge. That's probably one of the biggest things. People just don't have the knowledge that it takes to do these deals. And the truth is, nothing more than a 6th grade level education accomplishes these deals that we do over and over and over again. Here's some of my real deals. So this is in the current economy. Now, these are not deals from, decades ago or anything crazy like that happens with people. That there's stuff we show you. I'll show you stuff that happens through time, and I'll show you stuff that continues happening for me all the way up to today, and then I'll show you brand new deals. When people come to my events, they watch the current deals happening right in front of their face. It's happening in my business right then and there. But just start looking at the financial gain and the cash flow on each one of these. And notice that they're nice houses, and this one here this is a double-wide mobile home on a permanent foundation. There's a nice brick rancher on 5 acres of ground. There's a double-wide mobile home. Now, that's a big double-wide. That's 5 bedrooms, 3 baths, if I remember right, and that does not have a permanent foundation. It's just skirting on the bottom of it. There's a really nice brick home. A bank gave that property to me. There's a nice home right there. That one was owned by a very prominent district attorney who tried with the realtors, tried doing it himself, and he gave the house to me for me to take care of and do the deal on it. I bought it from him subject to, and like I said, what is he? Assistant district attorney. So simple little house, nice little cookie cutter, nice little neighborhood that's not gated. A simple little house, a little bit older, but simple little house. See, it's not a big profit, but if I spend less than $11, it's $4,800 okay to make off of it. $17,000. I don't get much cash flow out of that one. I've only made $17,000 off of it. It was a huge favor we did for a friend of ours, but just a simple, nice house. Here's a 2-story. This is actually a split level. So when you go into the front door, you're going into the in the center, in the middle of the house. So when you walk in that front door, you walk up a half a flight of stairs to get to the living area upstairs, and then a half a flight downstairs, you go into more living area and the garage. That's a double-wide mobile home on an acre of ground, and it does have a permanent foundation under it. Here's a house that people believe is haunted. I don't know what you believe in. I don't know what I believe in either with that stuff. I just kind of leave it alone. But that house was built in the 1800s. I'm the 5th owner of that house. And, you can do this with any kind of home. This was a relative's home. There was a death in the family, so we took it over just to help them out. It's an older home. It's very dated. I think that was built in the late 70s or early 80s. This house is kind of a narrow, long house. So if you were walking down the side of it, you'd see that this is a much bigger house than it looks like it from the front here. Another small cookie cutter type house in a non-gated community. Here's another one that the houses, you can almost touch the houses if you stand in between them and reach your hands out. Maybe 2 people holding hands would be able to truly touch the other house in that. As a matter of fact, that house right there, a guy came all the way from Sacramento. I'm just outside of Savannah, Georgia. Came all the way from Sacramento to buy that house for him and his twins. That last house I just clicked by, that one also was one that a bank gave me. This one just a simple older home. I think that was a concrete block house right there. Another double-wide mobile home without a permanent foundation, just skirting at the bottom of it. This one here is kind of a southern-style home. It's got the nice wraparound porch on the front, and then it's got from the carport going over the covered walkway, walking to the house. There's so many things you could do with this, and I look at that house and I could close in that carport, make it a nice double-car garage, and close in the walkway, and then make a sun porch on the back that it actually goes into the. When you go down that walkway there, you're actually entering into the back of the house, which is the kitchen. That's what that house should have done to it, and I'm so tempted to do it, but then I'd be spending thousands of dollars, have costly entanglements, when I only spent $11 off of it, and you can see the financial gain. This one here we refer to as the John Deere house. The lady was so proud of this. She chose the colors and painted it. And it was funny. She came into one of my events. I actually did this deal in front of my students. And she came in and said, you know, those colors on that house are the John Deere colors. And we had already said, boy, it looks like John Deere colors. They truly were. She loved the John Deere colors. And so that's what she chose for her house. That was way out in the country. And you know, I have not repainted it. It looks just like that today, maybe a little bit dirtier, you know, over time, but that's the exact colors of the house today, and, you know, we still have people in it with no problem. So here's the total financial gain from 21 deals. Is that enough money for you to be satisfied on doing something for maybe a couple of months? Maybe, maybe not. Don't know what your lifestyle is. The average profit per deal on just those simple 21 deals is 39 grand and counting. That number keeps going up. All right. So then per month cash flow off that to 8,100. So remember back in the very beginning when I was showing you, figure out what it is, how much money that you want to live off of. You know, what does it take to maintain your current standard of living? And you just saw 21 houses. There's mobile homes in there. There's houses that I'm not making much off of. There's houses I'm making a little bit more off of, some standard cookie cutter houses. Then there's some really nice places in there too. So that's just a little teeny tiny fraction of what we do and what we've done. But that gives you 97 grand per year. Now, if I wanted to just walk away, retire, stop, not do anything else, then is that enough money for you to be satisfied living off of with those 21 deals? Each deal averages $380-some per month. And here's the best part. Many of these houses cost me less than $11. In fact, most of them were given to me. They didn't even cost me $1. Did you see it? Did you see what I was trying to actually truly point out to you? It's a retirement plan as well as a real estate investing business that you're growing into a business that you're turning into a retirement plan with very little to no trouble. The simple business plan is accumulate 21 properties in 3 years. Okay, so look at this. If you do 21 properties in 3 years, that's 7 a year. It's easy to pick up 7 houses in a year. I've made a phone call and picked up. You know what? As a matter of fact, when Ryan first came, he's only been doing this, I don't know, about 3 weeks or so when he was just getting started with me. One phone call, one negotiation. He brought the seller in for me to negotiate with is actually 11 deals, 11 houses. Now, is Ryan going to do all 11? We don't know. We know he's already doing 4, and he'll either do the other 7 or he'll have a joint venture agreement where he'll get a piece of the other 7 out of that. So that means 1 every 7.5 weeks or so to be able to accomplish 7 a year to do 21 in 3 years. You know, Robert Kiyosaki said this: if you are a true investor, it does not matter if the markets are going up or coming down. A true investor does well in any market condition. Now, this is what I say. The expert investor does great in a good economy and even better in a bad economy. So let's recap. We got the wholesaling thing. The pros is quick cash, quick paydays. The cons is all that other junk, all those costly entanglements. I'm sorry, not costly entanglements, but the no residual income, lots of work to maintain that lifestyle, and all that stuff. Flooded with competition. Remember the dogs in the room analogy. That it's not any clearer to me than that picture right there that I tried to paint in your world. We got the fix and flip. It's got big paydays. If Murphy doesn't swim up there, which he loves to swim up into that world, just ask anybody who's fixed and flipped 5 properties. I guarantee you Murphy's taken a visit to them on most of them. Takes too long. It's riskier. Requires lots of money. You're always sitting there biting your nails, chomping at the bit, waiting to see, am I going to find a buyer who's going to finally get this burden off my back to where maybe I made a little bit or at least I broke even. Buy and hold. Here comes that Dan Dental picture for me again. That monthly cash flow is there. However, there's the landlord problems. Toilets, tenants, and all that other junk. Don't want to deal with that. All right, my 3-in-1 method. Oh, by the way, My 3-in-1 method, and we keep using the word 3 over and over again, you can add assignments in there as a fourth. Assignments, you can be assigning properties, and it's not the same as a wholesale deal. There's other things where you're just selling the paper, the buyer's position, and not just wholesaling it. Okay? My 3-in-1 gives you quick, big paydays, back-end profit, and monthly residual checks, and the almighty retirement plan. Whether you want to be 17 years old, put this plan in place, do it for 3 years, and retire at 20 and live off of it the rest of your life, you certainly can do that. Every once in a while, you might have to come out of retirement and add a house or two to it, but you're going to be very, very comfortable for a long time if you had 21 properties producing $97,000 a year income. All right? But the main thing with my 3-in-1 method is without the grind, the working only with cash buyer investors, upfront cash out of your pocket, costly entanglements, trying to borrow money, trying to jump through all the hoops for months to borrow money, the upkeep, the repairs, the maintenance, the vacancies, all those landlord problems. Forget it. I don't want to even think about it anymore. Do I need a real estate license is something that's commonly asked of me to do this business, and of course not. You do not need a real estate license. It truly can get in the way. Now, I do have a lot of students who are realtors, and they kind of work both sides of the fence, and I understand that. But when people are asking me this question, a lot of times they're thinking, well, if I'm going to take some training from Joe, I need to go get a real estate license. No, do not do that. So the bottom line is this business, the way that I structure this 3-in-1 plan, it takes care of lots of problems just by the use of real estate. So my statement is just go do another deal, and you're going to hear this over and over again. So if I want a cruise or a trip, if I want a new car, if I want to put the kids through college, if I want to just buy some special thing for myself, a boat, whatever. If I want to indulge in something, then all I got to do is just go do another deal. I think it was John Lennon said, or one of them said, maybe it was Paul McCartney, I don't know. But they said, if I want a swimming pool, I just go write another song. And then they sell their song to their current list. I just go get another house and sell it to my current buyers list, and at the same time use it to build an even larger buyers list. So remember, the average profit per deal was $39,000. Learn the business that stands the test of time. This stuff that I'm teaching you has stood the test of time through the worst recession in U.S. history, many, many, many other downfalls in our U.S. economy over decades. It stands the test of time because we know how to adjust to that moving target, which is the economic flow, we'll just call it. All right, so now it's time for me to kind of point some stuff out to you. There's this thing called knowing versus gathering. Please just listen to this and don't get your tail feathers ruffled if you think you know a lot about real estate. Gathering is collecting information you don't know works. Why? Because you haven't tried it. Don't know it works, or not because you haven't tried it. That's just gathering. You're collecting information. Knowing is you've acted on what you've gathered and know that it works. So if you're collecting information, let me just go in. I guess I should just follow the slide. That's why we put it in place, right? Many of you have been tricked. I kind of get ahead of myself sometimes because I've got so much stuff I want to tell you, and I have such a short period of time to do it in. But many of you think that you know what it takes to be a successful real estate investor because you've gathered some information about it somewhere. But you really don't know because you've not done it or acted on it. What you've done is gathered information and gathered to successfully close a deal. And yes, maybe you've gotten lucky and closed a few deals. Maybe you've done a lot of deals in a great economy. I did one boot camp just a few years ago, and it was just a fluke that it happened. A lot of my boot camps are really small because I like to spend a lot of personal time with individuals trying to get them really solidly up and running right away from my training. But this one boot camp that I did, everyone in the room, it was kind of crazy. My daughter, my youngest daughter and I were talking about it again the other day. Everyone in the room were broke millionaires or multimillionaires from real estate. They had been on top of their game, and when banks stopped writing checks, they were not able to hold on to what they had. They all lost, bankruptcy, foreclosures, going all the way down to begging for food. It was horrible what happened to these people, only because they did not understand how to adjust to that moving target. The economy, when it changes, and does the economy change? Is the economy different today than it was 3 weeks ago, 3 months ago? Look at gas prices. All of a sudden, they started coming down. Think about the economy 7 years ago, 2 years ago, 5 years. It constantly is changing. What is it going to be in 2 years from now? No one really knows. I can speculate. I can guess. I know that there's one specific area that people are going to have a lot of problems in, and I'll talk about it in my boot camp. And they have to focus to keep themselves out of trouble, and they need to realize why they need to adjust to that moving economy. And it's a very ugly thing that if they're not paying attention. Frequently asked questions. People always say, I don't have the time it takes. I don't have a lot of time. Does it require much? Money. I don't have the money. Does it require any? Belief in themselves. I don't believe I can do it. Can you help me? They're asking me all these kinds of things, making these statements and then asking. But then here's another one. Belief in me. They don't believe what I'm saying is true. So that's why I created my events where I do my live deals in front of my students. So I teach them how to do it. Then all of a sudden a buyer or seller showing up, everybody becomes a fly on the wall. Just be quiet. Don't help me. Don't do anything. Don't engage at all. Watch. When I'm done with the buyer or seller or the professional, that person leaves, and then it's time for Q&A on what they just witnessed took place. But when they watch me make tens of thousands of dollars out of a $11 investment or less, then all of a sudden they start believing. So here's one about, part of that. She doesn't have enough time. This lady, her name is Brandy. She was a stay-at-home mom. She only did actually it was a semi-part-time job, and she never made more than $6,000 in a year in her life. In 2 hours, she made $8,000 on her first deal. I think Brandy made about $75,000 in her first year, or maybe that was her second year. In the first year, I don't know what she made, but her second year, $75,000 she made off of doing real estate deals, and she's never used any private money. She's never borrowed any money from any bank. She doesn't even know what that's like to go through the process to borrow money on investment deals. This is all money that she's making off of deals without spending a bunch of money on them. Now, Brandy has a mistake. There's one little problem with Brandy. Brandy makes the mistake of letting people stay in a property too long if they're not doing the right thing. So Brandy's got a big heart. And so you have to learn how to draw that line in the sand. But Brandy's made a ton of money off of real estate. Adam, he didn't have any money. Adam was living out of his car. As a matter of fact, his mother introduced him to me because his mother saw that I could help him fix his problem. But she didn't know at the time that Adam had been thrown out of his apartment. Adam was truly living in his car. He came to me, and he went from homeless to owning $1 million mansion in 2 years from my training. Adam's true passion is not real estate. Adam had the desire to be a chiropractor. Now, if anyone out there knows anything about that, that's 8 years of trying to get yourself set up. If you go count all the college and school, everything you need, it's 8 years of training to become a chiropractor. So Adam has funded every bit. There's no student loans, no financial aid. There's none of that kind of stuff. And Adam is paid going through chiropractic school. He's in Atlanta right now, just barely. I think he's almost finished with his schooling. I'm not sure if he's quite done yet, but getting close. But his mom bought him a computer, and his girlfriend bought him a cell phone back when BlackBerries just first came out. So Adam came to one of my events. He was in it the second day in the event, and he made $7,000. So what he did with the money, he went and got his kids. He was never able to do anything like this. He got an apartment, got his kids, and they played in some of the money that he made from that deal. I think it was like $7,000 up front he got for doing a real estate deal in my town, and he's from Virginia, or West Virginia, one of the two. But they played in it till the kids fell asleep. This guy, look at that proud guy standing there in front of that truck. He didn't believe that he could do it. He drives long-haul truck, and I showed him how to purchase this home that he wanted, that he needed, with 5 acres on it for 1/3 of what it's worth. So that's a tremendous accomplishment for him, and something that he never in a million years could see himself doing. He could always buy something maybe just a little under what the going price was, but not 1/3. And as a matter of fact, the truth is, it's probably more like 1/4 of what that property is worth, because I can sell that property for 4 times what he paid for it. In the conventional wisdom world, a little bit more than 1/3 of what he paid for it. But in my world, 4 times. So, Joe, I think you're full of crap. I don't believe anything you say. I've shown you my deals, some of my deals. That's a little tiny snapshot of deals. You can go to, my blog and see, tons more deals, and that's only still just a little tiny fraction of it. I do my deals right in front of your face. I make sure that my rating with the Better Business Bureau stays an A+ rating by having 0 complaints in all 4 of my companies ever. I've never had 1 complaint ever. So people look at that and they go, oh, well, you can just buy a rating from the Better Business Bureau. That is not true. That's what people tell you in seminars because they're jealous because they can't have that rating. Matter of fact, you can see there's a report out there where you can see where one of the companies, and this is typical, either they don't have any rating or they got an F rating with the Better Business Bureau of people that teach real estate investing because they don't really do this stuff. They rip people off, take their money, don't help them, can't help them because they don't know what to do. They only know how to make money off information, and of course, people complain to the Better Business Bureau for them. But the purpose of being a member, and I try to explain this to my students and make sure they do this, the purpose of being a member of the Better Business Bureau is not to get to be able to just say you got an A+ rating. It's to give your customers a place to complain if there's something wrong. So it doesn't have to go to court. It doesn't have to go in front of an arbitrator. There's a third-party agency that can help settle a dispute. And if you are an upstanding business and you're willing to put your name out there with the Better Business Bureau, then you're saying, hey, customer, if you got a major problem that's fair, honest, makes sense, please tell me about it. And if that company doesn't help, then you've got the opportunity to go to the Better Business Bureau, and if they care about the rating, they'll make sure. You can't buy those ratings. We were an A rating for many years, and I kept saying, what is it? And, my wife would call and talk to this manager and that manager, upper executives. What is it about? How do you get the A+ rating? And they say it's an automatic thing that happens with some sort of a computer algorithm thing or whatever the hell it was. But the bottom line is one day, all of a sudden, we're looking online and poof, it went from an A to an A+. But in all the years, we've never had any complaints. So let's go down the tale of 2 investors. We'll call them Donald and Joanne. Donald thinks he has to wholesale until he can get some flips under his belt. Joanne is doing the 3-in-1 method and the 3-year business plan. So let's kind of take a look at the numbers. Donald's doing the average wholesale deal and brings in around $5,000 per deal. The average 3-in-1 method, the profit's around $39,000. So in 1 year, Donald has wholesaled 7 properties. Joanne's done 7 deals in the 3-in-1 method. Both approaches have taken up the same amount of time in the beginning of the effort it takes to do the deal. All right, so now we jump into 3 years. Donald has made enough money wholesaling that he's about to do his first fix and flip. Okay, so Donald's in the blue and Joanne's in the green in this chart. So after 1 year, you can see what the chart looks like for Donald. And then notice how Joanne's kicking his ass in the beginning here. But then look at year 3. I mean, she's way over the top, just knocking it home. She's hitting home runs constantly. So Joanne has 21 properties. So is Donald. And now we've jumped into the 5-year. So you can take a look at what Donald's looks like and what Joanne's looks like. Donald's still doing the fix and flip, but hasn't made enough money to hold any of his properties yet. Joanne kept on picking up homes at the rate of $7 a year, and now has profited, well, geez, I mean, I don't have to say any more to you about it. Now, I want you to also think about it. There's something that's kind of a hidden number here that you don't realize. It could be that Donald has wholesaled and used some of his money or private money, bought it and turned around and resold it. So basically he's flipping it but not having to fix it. He's just flipping it. So he's buying it and selling it with money over and over again. He could be doing like a one-day closing type thing. And I know that kind of stuff's kind of going out the window again right now with Uncle Sam reinforcing rules again. But the bottom line is that there's money in a lot of those deals that Donald has had to spend, and Joanne has spent no more than $11 or less than $11 on each and every one of those deals. So you have to kind of take a look at that from that perspective also. So now let's look at Joanne's gold. There's nothing there for Donald. There's no gold at all. Joanne's gold is this money is going to continue coming into her every year, every month, constantly. By the way, Murphy lives all over Donald's world. Joanne's risked a maximum of $350 on those deals, kind of like I was saying earlier. But Donald, there's so many problems that can come into play, and so much time taken up waiting for that wholesaler that he's wholesaling it to, who's going to wholesale it to another one. So we put several people in between the initial seller and the end buyer, that each person's making, 3, 5, 10, 15, just peanuts off of that deal. Okay, so Joanne has a monthly cash flow of $13,000 or $162,000 a year after 5 short years of investing. Is that enough for you to retire on? Donald has no passive income coming in for his 5 years of labor. Now, one thing I want to tell you, this is not magical stuff. I'm not telling you I'm waving a magic wand over your head and money's going to miraculously fall out of the ceiling into your lap. You got to do the work. You got to do some work, but it's nowhere near the work that you do in a standard job. This is not like a regular job, though. You can't just show up and get a paycheck. You got to do. Nothing's going to happen in real estate until you make a sale. Remember what I talked about earlier. You got to be selling even if you're buying. If you're in business for yourself, which that's what this is about, building it as a business, you got to learn what it really means to discipline yourself and to discipline the people around you. People can't come into your world and knock you off track just because you're maybe sitting at the house, or maybe you're at an office where it's very laid back and you're in total control of your time and everything. That you've got to set up ground rules where everybody can't just knock you off track because you're available and others around that could do the same thing are working for the man, and the man's going to fire them if they leave. So you got to be careful. You got to draw a line in the sand in that, and it's a discipline that you have to have. And then you have to enforce it, because if you worked for the man's going to force it on you. He's going to, or she's going to say, look, you can't just up and leave your job and take care of that problem with that situation without getting fired. I'm sorry, you can't. We have rules here. So the number one reason why most people fail in real estate is they don't do activities that lead to a sale. Sales equals money. Do anything else other than pursuing a sale is failure in real estate. My methods cut out the fat and only have you focusing on working towards a sale. My method is designed to have people seek you out and sell themselves to you. You're not having to just go beg people for anything. Matter of fact, you're doing just the opposite. I like to say this. It's kind of like I relate this in the dating world. I have all these analogies of this business. But this one here is he or she who cares least wins. So it's not that you don't care about the people and about your business. If that deal's not going to happen for you, you're not worried about it. You're not like going to agonize over it and drive yourself nuts and pester the heck out of someone else. You're not going to beg them. They're going to beg you. I want you to get yourself in a position where they need you more than they need oxygen. And it's very easy to get to that point. Now, I'm going to teach you something here. there's 5 rules to succeed, and this can be true in many different businesses, but specifically in real estate investing, just focus on this. Never make a promise you can't keep. What I mean by that is, if you make an agreement that you're going to be there at a certain time, by God, you be there at that time or before that time. And if something crazy out of your control, you make sure you've contacted them and said, hey, but don't make it a habit. You can't make it a habit of, breaking that promise. Don't make a promise where you're going to, pay someone's debt on something and not pay it. Don't make a promise you can't keep. Never personally guarantee debt. Anytime you do a personal guarantee, people don't realize this. If you borrow money on a property and the bank has the lien on the property, yes, the bank has the right to foreclose on it if you're not making the payments. But when you sign the personal guarantee during part of that closing, that means that the bank can chase you for any other assets that you have to recoup their expenses, their loss in getting that property back. Maybe they got it back and it was completely destroyed and lost all of its value or most of its value because of what happened to the property when you didn't take care of it. So now they got to, you borrowed a lot of money and they can't make their money back by just owning that property. So a personal guarantee means they can chase other assets of yours. Don't write a big check. Now, a big check to you and a big check to me could be 2 totally different things. So what I tell my students in the very beginning is, I don't want you writing a check for any more than $1,000. Now, you've heard me say over and over and over again, less than $11, and that's the God's honest truth. There isn't a student of mine out there that doesn't understand what I mean by that and doesn't do that, that does deals. But there are times where it's worth it for you to write a check on it. So don't write a big check. No more than $1,000. That's a big check. So never write anything more than $1,000. Always, 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 always let the market speak first. Never, never make the assumption that you know from any kind of gut feeling at all until you're very experienced of what the market is going to say about this property before. Never go ahead and commit to it before the market has spoken to you. So you always want to make sure that the market says it's a deal before it's a deal. I used to say to people all the time, hey, here's a house that's worth $100,000 in the conventional wisdom world, and I can get it for 10 grand. Do you think that's a deal? And people go, oh, God, yeah, all day long. And I say, no, it's not a deal until the market tells me it's a deal. So I don't care if the conventional wisdom appraisal, comparative market analysis, a broker's price opinion says it's worth $100,000 until my market, which is unspent buyers, has told me what that property's worth. That's when I know it's a deal. Okay? Number 5. So there's actually 5.5 rules here. But number 5, find a teacher that has hundreds of current personal examples doing what you want to learn. The key word here is current. And you need to be able to see them. They got to have an open door policy, wide open, to where there's no doubt in your mind that this person really does what they're saying they're going to be able to teach you how to do. 5B, if there's a staff, just like I said, Ryan he's the newest person coming into my world. He's got to do deals. I don't make him do them right away like I forced it on Ryan, but Ryan's a pretty fast learner and a pretty sharp guy. So bottom line is, I put that pressure on him right away because I wanted him to experience the warmth and the gratitude of solving people's problems, the profit that he's able to make, and be able to get his family here as quick as possible. And it all revolved around him being able to do some of these deals simultaneously. Here's the beautiful thing about my method that I teach, and that is to have it sold before you ever commit to it. So I teach people how to buy houses without using their money, their credit, their lender of any type. And when I say that, no private money, no hard money lender. You don't have to line up wholesale buyers and all that kind of stuff. None of that garbage. And you can stay in the deal for many years if you'd like to without any risk, because I also show you how to have it sold before you commit to it. So here's a little example. I love this picture. I remember doing this one day. I said it to a couple of my staff members. I said, hey, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go grab one of the filing cabinets. And this wasn't all of our deals now, or all of our buyers. I just want you to take the files and files and files of buyers, and I want you to make sure they're in nice, neat folders, and I want you to put them in line and line them all the way through from one office all the way through and into another office and have them coming out of the one of the filing cabinets. And so that's what they did. And at that time, that was like, it says right here, it was like a little over 4,000 buyers or so, or maybe it was just barely under 4,000 buyers. But it's simple and easy to do this. And, today I have over 7,000 buyers in my local area waiting to buy. They're all chomping at the mouth, salivating at the bit. Salivating meant chomping at the bit. I had them backwards there. That's the first time I've ever done that. To get the opportunity to buy one of my properties, because I say yes when other institutions are embarrassing and humiliating them. They don't have to be embarrassed and humiliated with me. They come in, we see what we can do, we take a look at what their situation is, and put them into a house if we can. Now, we can't put everybody into a house, of course not. I mean, everyone understands that. But the bottom line is that is a very powerful statement. And I only work in an area that has a population of around 40,000. So I want you to think about that. I'm real close to Savannah. We don't even do, every once in a while we'll do a deal in Savannah. So we don't even get into Savannah. Now, here's the crazy thing. People go, oh, my God, Joe, you just know so much about this, that, and the other. And, okay, yeah, I'm not any smarter than you. The truth is, I've just done more deals than you. That's all. In some cases, over 4,100 more deals than you. But the more deals you do, the better you get at this and identifying different ways to make money in real estate from the same exact deals. I've shown you 3 different ways that I make money off of deals. There are actually dozens of ways that I make money off of the same exact real estate deals, and I teach a lot of that, and I teach at different levels of that. I won't let you take any of my advanced stuff until you can do this at the basic level, because I don't want you to get confused. I created this term called info paralysis, that too much information paralyzes you, so I force you to be able to do this at the basic level so that you're making tons of money off this before I let you go into the advanced stuff where you make even more. Here's Kathy. Kathy is just an absolute sweetheart. She came to us to one of our boot camps, and she had a problem. She's outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and or that's where she was. Now, Kathy had a house for 2.5 years. She was trying to sell. She used a mom and pop real estate broker. Then she used a very well-known real estate brokerage, and then she tried to sell it herself. 2.5 years, not a chance. She told me about it right in the beginning, right before the boot camp started, which we started on a Thursday usually. Back in that day we did. So right before the boot camp started, I talked to my outside sales rep. I said, you know what? She's got some pictures of the house with her. Let's go ahead and market it and get it sold for her. So we spent a little bit of time. I think, that first day by 11 o'clock, she handed her phone over to my wife and said, I can't take any more calls. And remember now, this was about 8 o'clock in the morning, getting to the boot camp. We started the boot camp around 8:30, and by 11 o'clock, she took her phone, handed it to my wife, and said, Victoria, I cannot take any more of these calls about my house, people wanting to buy it, because I can't pay attention to the training in the class, and I want to hear the rest of the training. So Vicki started taking her calls for her, and we sold her house that day. I coached her through for about 30 minutes, and she made a little over $300,000 off of that deal. So that's Kathy. Adam, he called me one day. He'd already been doing plenty of deals. He was, moving and shaking. Adam's made a ton of mistakes now. I don't want to hide that from you. He's made a lot of mistakes, but that's okay. But the bottom line is, Adam called me one day. We spent about 20 minutes on the phone, and Adam is an implementer. Remember, he's the guy that made $7,000, played with it with his kids in the bed. He's the one that made it during my event. So Adam implements exactly what I tell him to do. He does it right then and there. He doesn't wait. He hears it and implements. So while I'm talking to him on the phone about a situation he had, I told him exactly what to do, and while I was telling him, he was doing it on another line simultaneously and made $20,000 with less than 15 minutes worth of effort in the same day. So here's what I have. I've got a 3-day real estate event that I call Jumpstart Your Business Bootcamp. Now, Jumpstart is adjusted to everything that works in the economy the day the bootcamp starts. So you have to understand, my primary business is my real estate investing business called Absolute Investment Group. That's where I do my real estate deals. Everything that's working in my real estate buying and selling business, I apply to my training business then. So it's instantly the newest thing that's working, or things that have been working. The day the boot camp starts, that's what you're learning. You're not learning something that worked 7 days ago, 7 months ago, 4 years ago, or maybe never worked ever. You're learning what works in my business. And oh, by the way, I don't do my training in hotel conference rooms in a sterile environment. My training is in one of my office complexes. That's where my classroom is at, where you watch me interface with my staff every day. And my staff is not an information marketing staff. It's a real estate investing staff that you're watching me interface with. So you're seeing how they're doing bits and pieces. In the beginning, you may not have a staff. It doesn't matter. All the things you see them doing, you're a one-man show to start off with, or maybe a two-person show. Doesn't matter. But the bottom line is you'll start doing deals, and then you'll start realizing how you can put people in place to help you improve your business and jump it up. But the fourth day, this is a new thing we just started. The fourth day is the implementation day. So this next boot camp we're doing is 4 days now. 3 days is pure content, and by the way, there's no one else there to sell you anything. I don't believe in that pitch fest crap, and when I say there's no one else to sell you anything, there is no one else to say. I'll pay you $5,000 if you see me put a person on stage that's coming in to sell you anything. The only thing I do have is a guy coming in to show you how he can help you with applying credit repair to your customers if you want to take advantage of that. But the bottom line is the fourth day is an implementation day. That's the day where you bring your deals with you, if you have any, that you can't get closed. I'll help you close them. If you need help getting started, you want to get started from scratch, you haven't ever done this before, and you need ads started to get set up, websites started to get us up, every single thing that needs to be done to get this business up and running and get you to the very next level as fast as possible, that's what that day is for. So I'm going to force your success. The price of that boot camp, we're not going to come and do all this crazy stuff of saying it's worth $15,000 or $20,000, because the truth is it's worth, if you apply what I'm teaching you to do, it's worth $97,000 every year to you. That's what it's worth. So I could make up all these things and then say it's worth all this, but today only, period. I've been selling this for $14.97, and that's what the price is. I don't try to make a ton of money off of my real estate training. I just love helping people, and this is the price for that boot camp. You can do it either live or you can do it as a home study, but when you come to that event, it's $1,497. This is what you learn. You learn the ins and outs of real estate investing as a business. 1 full day is dedicated to help you implement what you've learned into your very own business and local market. By the way, talking about your local market, I show you exactly how to take a look at your local market. There's some strange things that going on in everybody's market. There's something unusual, something that you need to realize or think about that you weren't thinking about in the conventional wisdom world that will up your game or adjust what you should be doing. Pick up the latest tips, tricks, and techniques that I'm using in my business daily. Set up your life for the next 40 and retire in as little as 3. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. Now, I personally love doing what I do. So truly, I am retired. I truly have already retired twice in my life. There's only so much fishing you can do. I do this kind of stuff just because I love it. I love reaching out, helping people. I'm not risking any money. I'm taking great care of people. I'm solving lots of problems. I'm changing people's lives in the training business, in the buying, my sellers, my buyers, people's lives are being put on hold because of a piece of real estate. I love solving the problems. You'll discover 6 traps that destroy and crush real estate investors and what to do to avoid each one of those traps. Adopt the creative thinking it takes to structure profitable deals in this and any economy. And remember, this whole structuring thing is all about being able to do a deal no matter what's thrown at you, no matter what situation's thrown at you. You'll know instantly whether you should be involved with it or not and how to structure it so that you can solve their problems for a fair profit. Never make the single most common mistake. This is what you're learning in this. Every real estate investor makes. I'm telling you, Every real estate investor makes this mistake, and you'll learn exactly not what that is and not to make that mistake. And, this is not much of a hint really, but bottom line is it's not what you think. 3 ways to profit from this business, starting almost immediately. Things are going to stop you if you have doubt in yourself. If you just get going and, you're going to make mistakes. It's okay. I still make mistakes. I can tell you mistakes I've made last week. You're always going to make mistakes. How to easily generate a flood of buyers and sellers. Easily generate that. Did I say it's costly? Did I say it's very expensive? No, it's not. You heard me say earlier, I told a lady on the phone earlier today, I spend $500 a year in marketing. And sometimes there's years when I don't spend a dime on marketing. Well, I calculated after repaired value is a joke, and you should never use it. I'll go into it in great detail so you truly, you heard me go over it briefly, but you'll understand it in depth what it's all about. How to make money with underwater properties all day long. Now, are there any properties around you that are worth less in the conventional wisdom world than what they owe on it? Of course, America's full of that. There are tons of them. You can go to just about every bank that holds mortgages, and they've got either foreclosures or pre-foreclosures sitting there on their books, non-performing assets that they need help with. Why getting control of the property first is not the way to do this business and is backwards. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people all hoot and holler and go crazy in events because somebody just got control of a house and it was almost nothing. They spent nothing on it, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is great. They just bought this house, but they didn't have a clue who the hell they're going to sell it to. That's the backwards way, and it makes you look like a fool. So now you've taken control. You've told everybody you're this great, you've been to these courses, and you're just this really cool real estate investor, and you got all these cool things that you can do, and then you don't know who the heck to sell it to. I teach you how to have the buyer first before you get involved with the property, and then when it's time for you to put your signs up, your marketing, to get that property sold, it's up and it's down sometimes in the same day or the same week within the same month. And everybody's looking at it going, holy cow, what the heck? One of my attorneys, his name is Scott. I got several attorneys. Scott, he always calls me and he goes, Joe, this is a common thing he says to me all the time. Joe, can you work your voodoo magic on this one too? You will look magical. You'll become the local hero in your area, and then other professionals will connect to you and say, hey, Joe, or hey, Bob, or hey, Sally, or whatever your name is. Hey, Mike, can you work this deal just like you did the other one? Can you work your magic on this one? These people really need your help because no one else can help them. How to never do any repairs on a property before you sell it. Now listen, guys, I got to reveal something to you. I have a horrible desire. It's part of the fiber of who I am and the way I grew up. I grew up extremely tough, extremely poor. How poor? We used to eat pizza that sat on the kitchen countertop for weeks. That's what we would eat for breakfast, and scrape ashes from cigarette butts and all that kind of stuff off of it to try to get it. We'd stick it in some sort of a drink like a Coke or soda or something to kind of soften it up so you could chew it. I used to break off pieces, put it in my mouth, and let the saliva in my mouth soften it up before I could chew it up and swallow it. I have used toilet paper many times in my life. I grew up extremely poor, and part of the fiber is doing repairs on properties, being compelled to go and fix the property. Like I described to you, that one house, it's in the southern setting where it's got the carport and the covered walkway, and I say, here's what I would do with that, and it's like, okay, but wait a minute, that's a cost. I have to talk myself out of going and doing these repairs and doing all this stuff because you don't need to do any of it. It's not sensible. It's not necessary. Every once in a while, there's something you might want to do. You might want to do a little cleanup. Like I have a student that I just connected, put him on a deal out in Sacramento, and there's some cleanup there that he's going to do, but I got the seller to pay us up front, and I sent him the money for him to do the work on it. There's this little bit cleanup. The house needs a lot of work. There's just a couple of things that I want him to do, some safety issues that I want him to take care of so that when he's showing the property, a garage door won't fall on a person and stuff like that. But copy my method of getting employees to work for you on performance pay only. In other words, they get a piece of the revenue they cause to come in. You'll see how I do that, you'll understand it, and you'll love it when you're ready to put other people in place to help you up your game. Get access to my contracts, forms, and scripts to give you the foundation needed to succeed quickly. Plus much, much, much more. Every boot camp is different. There's always a different personality types in there that have different scenarios, situations. There's always different deals that are happening in front. Every week there's a new story and a different situation that is a teaching point that is extremely valuable and puts tons of money in people's pockets when they apply what they've learned. So there's Ryan's check. Now he actually made another $1,500 off it, but that was a second check. So this was one check, and he makes a joke about it because he misspelled his last name, but the bank still cashed it and everything for him or deposited it. Okay, so it's time to hear about my guarantee. I have been doing this guarantee since 2008 when I started teaching people in a organized system how to do this business. This guarantee is 100% of your money back at the end of the last day. If you think you can't do it, don't understand it, don't think it'll work in your area, don't want to do it, or any other excuse you want to make up, I'll give you all your money back right there on the spot. You're not going to spend months trying to get your money back, and I'll pay up to $500 of hotel and travel expenses. In all the years I've offered that guarantee, I've had one person take me up on it, and we knew he was going to before he came. He was just one of those kind of people. He was just someone who was trying to take advantage of somebody. I will tell you, I will promise you this. You come, you pay attention to this event, you sit there, you watch the things that are happening in front of you, you listen to the stories, you follow what I'm telling you to do, you stay focused. That's why I don't let anybody in there trying to sell you some other crap that you don't need. I want you focused on it. You will not even think about wanting your money back because you're ready to go make some money from what you learned from me. What you've realized is such simple tactics that make plenty of money. Like I said, it's nothing more than a 6th grade level education. You just don't know what you don't know right now. So what to do next? You need to go getmyjumpstartnow.com. That is a site that you can go to get my boot camp. I think there's 4 different choices there. If you get the home study, it's $1,497. We ship that out to you. If you get the live event, then you come to the event. It's $1,497. Most of my students like to get the combo. They like to get the home study and the live event. And what they do is they get the home study ahead of time. They start doing some deals, and they make some money off of it, and then they have a few deals that they can't get closed, and then they bring those to the live event, and then I try to close them for them. And if I can get it closed for them, they keep all the money. And I do the work right in front of everyone in the class. And then I think there's also a payment plan if you need it. It costs a little bit more for that, and I don't recommend that, but if you have to have that, then it's available also. Okay, so I've shown you everything that I do. I've shown you my system. Now what I want to do is open this back up. Ryan, if you come on and take care of some of the questions from the people so we can go ahead and get them answered and get moving to make some more success stories out there.
All right, yeah, so we have a couple of questions that have already come in during the duration of the presentation. By the way, Joe, thanks a lot. This has been really, really good and informative. I just want to tell everyone I will be at the training next week because Joe's going to close on one of my houses. He's going to get me a house for my family, and we're going to make that happen. I'm already putting that out there.
Okay.
So,
no challenge here, right?
That's right. So I'm going to bring all the sellers I have, and we're going to close one of those people on one of those days or during the implementation. So I'm already guaranteeing that to myself that it's going to happen.
Okay, fair enough.
So for those that want to go ahead and answer or have any of your questions answered, go ahead and type into the question section, and we'll go ahead and I'll just read those out as they come in, and we'll go ahead and start with the first one. All right, Joe. This first one is from Fred. He says, "How do you find deals?"
Okay, so my assumption is he's looking for sellers. So Fred, there's a ton of different ways to find sellers. Now remember, it's easy to find sellers. And you're saying, well, wait a minute, Joe, that's what I'm asking you. How do you do this? Just give me just a minute, and I'm going to talk to you about that. But it's easy to find sellers, but that's the last thing in the world you want to do if you want to make yourself look magical and make others come in that have businesses, that have fans or followers, and you want them to promote your business where it doesn't cost you anything, so you don't have to spend a lot of money on marketing. And this is just one little technique that I use. I got so many different ways that I market, but that's one that I use. So make sure that you have the buyers in place. You know what the buyers want. Make sure you have that before I get you going after deals. So one of the things that I like to do is, people always say, well, you can go and look in the for sale by owner sections and all that kind of stuff, and you can go on places like Craigslist and other free classified ad sites. And I want you to think about it. I'm just going to talk you through this for a second, Fred. If a person is trying to sell their house for sale by owner, and they just put it on the market, and you call them, are you going to be able to convince them to work with the terms that you want? Probably not, unless they're in such a great hurry that they got to get it done, or they already know that nothing else is going to work. Then you're going to be pushing a rope uphill with your nose that's wet. All right, but if you go after people that have already demonstrated to you that they're in a desperate situation to sell, and they already know that it won't sell in the conventional way, then chasing that kind of deal right there, where would you find them? And the answer is, let's say they just have taxes and insurance, and they don't want the house sitting empty. What are they going to do with the house if they can't sell it in the conventional wisdom world? What's the next thing they're going to want to do? And then let's describe another thing. People that have debt on it, they've got a mortgage payment, and they need the burden off their back, or at least some assistance in making that payment every month. What are they going to do? And of course, several people were probably saying, they're going to rent it, they're going to rent it, they're going to rent it. Okay, so now, if you just do this one thing, I'll guarantee you, because you're asking this question, you won't be able to handle all the deals that will come at you just by doing this one thing. You want me to tell you what it is? Of course you do. All right, so I want you to go back in time and look for every property that was listed in the for rent section, not the for sale section, for rent section. Now, are you going to find landlords that don't want to sell their properties? Of course. Is every person you talk to going to do a deal with you? Absolutely not. You're only looking for a little tiny number of the ones that you contact, and you won't be able to handle that little small fraction of them. So if you look in the for rent sections, and it doesn't have to be something that's for rent today, and it's when Ryan and I were looking at that house I was talking about today, across the street there was a house for sale, and Ryan had called the guy, and the guy said he rented it. And Ryan said, well, so you don't want to sell it? And he said, well, maybe I do, maybe I don't. Well, of course we want to buy it. Whether there's a tenant in it or not, I don't care. I can take the tenant and turn them into a buyer and make a whole lot of money off that instantly and never have to search for a buyer for the property. So I'm looking for people who are trying to rent their properties or listed it for rent way back. They may have listed it a year ago for rent, and there's tenants in it, but they still want to sell the property. It might be costing them money every month for that tenant to be in there because they didn't know how to structure it to begin with, and because they don't have a staff, and they only have one house, and they don't know how to handle the rental management business. They're not professional landlords. So the first place they're going when it didn't work for them to sell it is more than likely trying to rent it. So you can find a ton of deals right there if you just do that one thing. In other words, picture yourself walking into the garage that has a stack of newspapers that have classified ads that have the for rent section in all of those all the way back a year ago stacked up in somebody's garage, and you went through all that. Now, do you have to do that with a stack of papers? Of course not. There's plenty of ways of researching that. Okay, Ryan, next question.
All right, that's a great answer, and that's actually what I'm doing right now too. So Joe's telling you what actually works and what we're doing. Okay, next one comes from David, and this is a long one, so I'm going to read it to you, and if I need to reread it, let me know. So he says, I am new and looking for my first deal. I talked with the seller yesterday who told me unprompted that he doesn't want to do owner financing or rent to own, and that he isn't in a rush to move, and therefore will wait until he gets what he's asking for out of the house. He has only been trying to sell it for 2 months. Would you recommend to still go for the option to purchase on this home, or look for a seller who is more motivated to sell?
Okay, so I'm going to like I described that room with all the dogs in that room with the dog food in the corner. This time I'm going to describe something a little different. So I want you to picture an orange tree. As a matter of fact, I want you to see 5 orange trees, and all of them are full of oranges. What you're trying to do is you're taking an extension ladder, and you're leaning against that orange tree, and then you're taking, once you climb up that extension ladder, you got a walkboard that you're going to set on top of that one tree, and maybe it's kind of teeter-tottering on top of that ladder, and it's reaching over to touch another tree, and you're trying to like walk across and hope that you don't fall off of that walkboard, trying to reach over and grab an orange off that tree when you could have merely just stood on the ground and reached up and grabbed boxes of oranges off the tree. So if the person's not motivated right now, plant a seed with them and move on. Like George Ross, which was Trump's attorney and Trump's father's attorney, says just be willing to walk away. So you plant a seed with them, say, hey, look, here's what I can do for you. I understand you may not be in the position right now, but listen, if you decide not to go with me now, that's okay. I'm fine with that. I know that you don't want to do any of these other creative things, which you shouldn't be talking to them about anyway, because you don't know who the buyer is that's going to pop up on your radar screen once you do have that property under control. But bottom line is, Mr. Seller, I understand you may want to try something different. I would too if I were you. I don't blame you. But I want you to know you've not burned a bridge with me. Anytime you want to come back to me for me to try to do something for you, I'm happy to. And by the way, Mr. Seller, when you get involved with me, it never costs you anything. Okay? So that will give you a tremendous amount of respect. You're just willing to walk away, and the guy realizes you're not this pressuring, aggravating person pushing and pushing and pushing them. You just say, hey, here's what I can do. See you later. I'm moving on. You can imagine what my desk looks like. I have a ton of buyers coming across, or a ton of sellers coming across my desk when I say I buy houses any price range, any condition. Okay? Next question.
Okay, so the next one comes from Maurice. And Maurice says, I'm in Dallas. Will you still be able to help me find deals with me?
Sure. I have students all over the world. The furthest they came from the last event was New Zealand, so I think Dallas is a little closer than New Zealand. Now, Texas does have some unusual things. There's certain things that you can't. Every state has, a little different flavor or thing that you can do and can't do. For example, in Texas, you can't do lease options. There's a whole different process we go through in Texas. All right. Next question.
All right. Sure. And this one comes from David. He says, do you do anything to try to protect yourself from the loan being called due if purchased the property subject to?
Okay, so there's nothing that you really have to worry about as long as you follow some simple rules. There's a lot of different things that you need to learn about it and understand why that's not a concern and never needs to be, even though a lot of people think the due on sale clause is being triggered when the deed transfers. But the bottom line is there's a tremendous amount of reasons why you don't have to worry about that at all. And, to go into it tonight, I've spent another hour just teaching that one part, which is it's a big part in the boot camp. So you don't have to worry about the due on sale clause and it being triggered even if you're buying subject to. I have bought thousands of properties and hundreds of them have been subject to. By the way, I have also sold many, many, many dozens of them subject to. So that should be a huge eye-opener to people right now hearing that. Not only have I bought them, but I've sold them the same exact way. Okay, next question.
Okay, this one comes from Chris. He says, is the access to contract forms and the script part of the boot camp fee? Is the money back part of included in the home study? And how do I purchase properties for as little as $10?
Okay, so yes, the guarantee is for all of my stuff. That's number one. Number two, I'm sorry, say that last question. That's last part of the question.
Yeah. So, does he get access to the contracts and forms and scripts?
Oh, yeah, that's all part of it. That's all included in it. There's not an additional fee to get the things that you needed to do. Everything in Jumpstart is all the stuff that you need to get started. Now, is it all the stuff that makes it even bigger and better? No, there's more things that I have that, turn you into, you'll be marketing to maybe 10 different techniques or so to bring in buyers. You can't handle more than that in the beginning when you're getting started. Even if you've been a real estate investor for 40 years and you don't understand real estate the way that I do, these 10 techniques that you learn or so in there is very easy to bring in a ton of buyers. I can then up your game into bringing in 100 different techniques to bring in buyers to you. You can't do all of them. I can't do all of them. But you'll find out that certain things work better in certain areas, and some things will work well at some times and then not work well for a while and change up. There's things that I offer up like that, but everything in Jumpstart is what you need to get started doing real estate deals in your town, no matter where you live, as long as you live in an English-speaking world. The bottom line is, I'm not trying to pull a fast one over you and say, look, here's everything you need, but you can't do it because I held back this crap and you got to pay me extra money for that. No. Would that give me an A+ rating and no one complaining, or would that give me people complaining? So you just kind of look at my track record. Go Google me, find out what kind of negative thing you can see out there about me. Next question. Oh, wait a minute. There was something at the end of it too, wasn't there?
Yeah, you said, how do you purchase property for as little as $10?
Okay, and again, I'm not trying to give you a short answer, but there's a lot that you have to understand, and that's why I spend 3 full days. If you go to anyone else's boot camp, you're going to get 6 hours of content in a 3-day event, and then the rest of it is going to be a pitch-a-thon. In my event, there's no pitch-a-thon. It's 3 full days, all day long, of pure content. Your head will be swimming the first morning, and there's 3 solid days of that. You're learning all different kinds of things of why it's this and why it's that and how that. So I'm just going to kind of try to satisfy you just a little bit by understanding that when you do a contract, when you do an agreement with someone, and I'm taking money out of my pocket to make that agreement a legal binding tender on that agreement, all I have to spend is $10. I don't have to put $500 or $1,000 or $250 of earnest money down. All I got to do is make that a legal binding contract with $10. And many times we forget to give them the $10. So when I say less than $11, then that is one way of that being true. There's many different facets of what I just said. That's just one piece of it. Okay? Next question.
Okay. This is a question about the boot camp specifically. This is from Anika. She wanted to know, what are the hours of the boot camp, from what time to what time?
Oh, we start at 4 a.m. and we run till midnight. No, I'm just kidding. Don't hang up now. Don't push the end button. Generally, we'll start somewhere right around 8 o'clock. It might be 8:30, but 8 o'clock in the morning, and we end somewhere around 5-ish or so. But here's what happens. It's up to you. I eat, drink, sleep, love this stuff. So there could be a buyer coming in to meet with me at 7:30 that night, and I might say, hey, guys, I'll be here till 7:30. I'll keep on teaching. We'll keep on moving forward, and you guys can sit and watch me make a deal happen, or watch this buyer get mad at me, because you're going to learn the good, the bad, and the ugly from me in the business. You're not going to learn that everything is absolutely perfect all the time, because it's not. And if you saw that it was perfect all the time in a theory type environment, then when you went back home and you tried to do it and a couple things didn't go right, then you'd go, oh, hell, there's something wrong with me, and either quit or keep going back to different seminars and spending money trying to figure out what you did wrong. When the truth is, you need to know that not all of it works exactly right all the time. So when I say you're going to watch me work with people, buyers and sellers, I don't know who will show up and who won't. I don't even know what kind of deals are happening next week. I have no earthly idea. There could be, I have done a couple of $1 million in an event before, and all of it's recorded, and then there's ones where I've only done like $80,000. So I never know what's going to happen. Here's the crazy thing. For me, it doesn't matter. I'm there teaching you, and whatever's going to happen in my real estate investing business is going to happen, whether you guys are there or not, period. So anywhere, somewhere between 8 and 5-ish is typical, but, there could be late things. So don't get mad at me if I'm staying longer and you don't want to. Next one.
All right, so this comes from Mike. He says, I work a full-time job, and I'm wondering when I'm able to find the time to do real estate investing while working 6:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m.
Okay, so the first thing you got to do, Mike, is you got to learn what it is you're supposed to be doing, and then I'm sure that you have break times in there. And my assumption, if it's the Mike I'm thinking of, he's probably in his 30s, so he is internet savvy and can use his phone more than likely to do some research. Also, in his job, ask Mike real quick to type in, is he traveling or is he sitting just in one office? If he's sitting in an office, then he can do his research online. If he's traveling, then he can do his research physically looking for deals while he's doing his job anyway. So has he answered that by any chance?
No.
Okay. All right. So anyway, so either way, I'm answering.
Yeah, it just came in. He said he's traveling.
Okay, so he's traveling, so now he's going to learn from me in the boot camp how to find deals when he's actually driving through neighborhoods. And when he's traveling, he's going to find deals. And so all he's going to do is just write down the address, period. That's it. You didn't have to do anything else. Then at night or on the weekend, he's going to have just a little bit of time he needs to put into it. But here's the truth. If you want a full-blown real estate investing business, making that like the 21 deal business plan that we showed you, that is no more than about 4 hours a week of work to do that right there. A full-time, full-blown real estate investing business doing this stuff, once you learn how to get out of your own way, only takes 8 to 10 hours a week. Does he have a free 8 to 10 hours a week? So let's say he did 1 hour per week at night, and then maybe another 3 or so on the weekend. That's way more than 8 to 10 hours right there available. It doesn't take, this is not a 40-hour-a-week thing. And now let me just justify what I just said. I have seen people who don't listen to what I say, and they just do all these crazy, you can relate to this, Ryan, in the very beginning, doing all these crazy things. It's just not necessary. You don't need to know or care about all that stuff. I want to know some certain things really quick and easy right up front. That's the purpose of those scripts. The scripts are part of the boot camp. The scripts keep you on track and keep you focused on what you need to know from your sellers and what you need to know from your buyers to instantly, at lightning speed, pre-screen them out and decide whether it's a deal or not, period. You don't need to spend 10 minutes trying to decide. I can decide in 30 seconds whether I'm in or not, whether that mathematical window of opportunity is open or not. Okay? Next question.
Okay. Next question comes from David. He says, how do you negotiate differently if you're trying to buy a house to live in personally rather than get an end buyer in it?
Okay, so now here's the caution. You have to be careful. I'm teaching you how to do this as a business. There's nothing personal here. It's just business. So when you find that property that you're falling in love with, you have to be careful, have some discipline, and be focused. So if it's one that's kind of a heartfelt decision, you can understand where I'm going with this already. So you have to be careful with this. But I'll tell you a story about a person that came to work for me. She used to be one of my outside sales reps. She was a single woman in her early 20s, living with her parents. No kids or anything, never been married. Matter of fact, I think she may have rented her own place one time with maybe 2 or 3 other friends, when she first graduated high school or something, but that was it. Most of the time living with mom and dad. Never bought a house or anything. So what I did was we had found a house that, was a typical house that we would do a deal on, and we looked at it and we go, you know what, this one would be perfect for her. And so I negotiated the deal for her, and her first payment was due 13 months later after she moved in. So you can just kind of think about what that would do for you if it was a personal property for you moving in. But the caution I'll give you is if it's a property for you and you're getting it, make sure that you're not making a promise you can't keep. Make sure you're not getting this house and you're taking it over with some of the techniques that we use, and then it's someone else's property, someone else's debt, and you don't have a way of making payments on it because you're like thinking, oh, I'm only going to spend $11 on this, because that's not the case. The reason I'm not spending any more money than that is because someone else has already paid me up front for the property, and I brought them into my world before I committed to the property. But if I'm moving into it, or if you're moving into it, there's no one else paying the property unless you're doing what my 2 oldest kids did, which brought people in to lease rooms from them, which were friends of theirs, while they lived there also and paid for schooling and paid for this and paid for that. So you just have to be careful when it's for you not to jump in over your head. What I like to tell people to do is this. Do a couple of deals, get some good solid cash flow going from them that can afford the monthly payment on the next home, which might be your dream home. And let those few deals that you did up front pay for your dream home every month. Okay? Next question.
All right, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Next question comes from Andrew. He asks, what support is offered after the training class, and should I need it? And is the home study course, are they videos or something else?
Yes, the home study is videos, and then it has all the same contracts, forms, and scripts, and all that stuff that comes with it. PDF file, the manual, the whole 9 yards, everything comes with it. Same things you're getting in the live event. The only thing is you're not getting the benefit of being there live. You're not getting the networking benefit, but you're not incurring the cost of travel, eating out of town, living in a hotel, and you're also not having to take time from work or family or, your requirement being somewhere else. So, each person has their own things they have to deal with there. Okay, so that answers part of it. I'm sorry, Ryan. Let me have the rest of that question again.
Sure. I want to clarify one thing, too, and I think that this is something that's different than other information marketers that are out there. They'll have a video course, but it's something that's recorded in their office. It's a module, and it just kind of breaks down step by step. But your videos, actually, Joe, are straight, nonstop from day 1 to day 3 or 4, whenever it does end, of that training. There's no
That's right. Of that
straight video.
Yeah, of that training, or it could be the one that we did before this one.
Right. Yeah. That's how it is. It's just they're watching you as if they were a fly on the wall.
That's right. That's right. They're seeing everything that the person live saw. The only thing that, the camera might be shut off during lunchtime, and we might be sitting in the classroom eating, and somebody asks me a question, or a buyer or seller comes in while we're eating, and the camera doesn't get turned back on until, a little while later, or something like that could happen. But other than that, yeah, the full training is part of the home study. But there was more to that question. What else was there?
Yeah, the other part of the question was, what support is offered after the training class should I need it?
Okay, so I do offer up coaching and mentoring. Also, a couple of questions coming in through my staff. Remember, my staff, they have to be real estate investors too. So most everyone that's on my staff, they're not information marketing staff people. They are real estate investors. My primary business, I have 4 companies, is real estate investing. Now, are we trying to get better at helping people learn how to do this out there across America? Yes. Am I trying to create an army of investors across America to fix the economic problems in America? Yes. But I'm not real good at the information marketing side. I don't know how to put a tremendous number of butts in seats, because I'm a real estate investor teaching you how to do what it is I've been doing for 4 decades. I'm not an information marketer selling you information in theory about real estate investing. That's a huge difference, and many people don't realize that that's what's really going on out there. I don't know anyone out there that has the kind of numbers of deals that I do. So, but the bottom line is, when you call, you can call my staff, and they'll probably know the answer of your, I'll just say your basic questions. Now, when we get way into advanced stuff, they may not know. That's a good possibility. All right. So I have mentoring that I offer up that you can take advantage of. You can ask a couple of questions that way, but I always encourage everyone to become a member. We have a membership site where there's constant Q&A going on. There's all kinds of training videos we've put in there. We just did a teleconference the other night on 10 different tips that are outside the norm of how to build a retirement plan so that you truly can retire in 3 years and use the retirement plan the whole time before you retire. Maybe you decide to retire 20 years from now. You can use the retirement plan as income the entire time, and then when you retire, it's still there for you to use to retire also. So yes, there's so much support and things that you can do with us. Once you come into our world, you're part of our family. Next question.
Okay, so this one comes from Maurice, and he says, Joe, I believe in you, and he says, I just need this to work for me like I need air. Now, when I join your class, will you joint venture with me, even if I have no current deals, so that I can make some money?
Well, you said the right thing, Maurice. You've probably seen me say it out there on this. There's people that want to joint venture with me all the time. Very, very well-known, high-profile people out there saying you could do this, that, and the other with real estate investing, constantly are private messaging me, trying to get me to joint venture with them so they can figure out how to do deals. And the truth is, they're trying to do a couple of deals so that then they can build a training program out of it, because they know how to put butts in seats and sell people stuff. But it's a crazy thing. The joint venture. I say this to people, and some people get their tail feathers ruffled. I will not joint venture with someone who has not done my jump start and has not come to my live. They got to do either the live or the home study first. And I can tell real quick if they took it serious when they did it, because I'm going to ask them a few questions up front. But if they know the answers to the questions, they understand how to think, speak real estate like I do, then we're not going to waste time together. You're going to know exactly what I want you to do, and then I love joint venturing with you. And the truth is, I want you to think about it. Maurice, I don't remember what town you're in, but let's just say that you're in
I believe he's in Dallas.
Okay, so all right, so Dallas. So there's no way that I'm going to jump out and go do some deals in Dallas. I don't believe in doing deals outside of my own backyard. I don't want to make myself look like a fool or a scam and trying to do deals in a town that I don't know anything about. People are trusting you with the most expensive thing they ever are selling or buying in most cases, which is a piece of real estate, a house. So I'm going to do deals only in my own backyard that are my deals. But so am I going to do deals in Dallas? No. But can I do deals with a student who lives in Dallas, and can I work with them and us joint venture on it and me make a whole bunch of money, a little bit of money for myself, but a whole bunch of money for my students, which then just blows up into them wanting to do more and bring more people my way for them all to do more deals, of course. So I always do that as long as they've taken my training and truthfully taken it, not just kind of put it on high speed and listen to, 1/3 of what I'm saying. Okay? So the answer is yes, Maurice, as long as you do what it is that I'm looking for you to do first.
Okay, and this next question is from George. And he says, how soon do your students get a deal once they leave the boot camp and implement your training?
Yeah, George, you just hit a sore note with me. Here's what happens. I've got people, like I showed you Adam. Adam's sitting there in the event, does exactly what I tell him to do, when I tell him to do it, and instantly makes a deal happen in day 2 of the event. He didn't know anything about real estate investing. Nothing. Zero. And on day 2 of the event, he made $7,000. He didn't even spend $10 doing it. Okay? And then I have the other end of the spectrum of people who sit on their damn thumbs for years, and they're nice people, and they say, oh gosh, I just got to get this one more thing out of the way before I can get started, and there's always this one thing, there's always this thing, or there's always this, I just didn't understand that, and they find out the answer to this one, and they get a little bit further in their understanding, but they never really truly implement because they're scared to death to do anything at all except what the conventional, traditional wisdom tells them to do, which is to work their ass off and trade hours for dollars their entire life and die poor. So, George, I wish I could say every single person comes to the event and makes money. If I did, it would be a lie. I do know this. I have a much, much, much higher success rate than my competition. So my students right out the gate, it hovers somewhere between 50 and 75% of my students right out the gate make 10 times what their training costs them. And that's right out the gate. Within 6 months, that number bumps up a little bit more, and the rest of the people sit on their damn thumbs. So, George, now my question is back to you. Looking in the mirror, what's that guy telling you you're going to do? Are you going to sit on your damn thumbs, or are you going to implement what I'm telling you exactly when I tell you to do it and the way I tell you to do it and focus? And, I'm not trying to be an ass or anything like that. I'm just saying, man, I want you to succeed. I love it. I absolutely love it when people just knock it out of the park. It's the coolest thing in the world when they take their shut-up checks and stick it in front of the people that have been the naysayers and the dream stealers and stick it right in front of their face and say, I guess I wasn't so foolish after all for trusting this guy. So there's my answer. Sorry about that. I kind of get on a tangent.
All right, and here's another question from Maurice again. He says, Joe, if I follow your steps and hold on to your coattail, is it possible for me to be financially free within 2 years?
I don't know, what kind of financial burden you've got against you, but each one of the deals, you won't be responsible for them without more money than what they cost coming in. So I can tell you that you're going to be in the positive cash flow if you do what I'm telling you to do, and you're going to make money up front. You're going to make money every month. And back-end money doesn't come as easy as it does right now. It will be coming back again, but it doesn't come as easy. There are plenty of back-end deals happening out there, but not as many as they used to. But plenty of money up front. You saw my numbers. Those numbers that you saw on those deals only reflect front-end money, and cash flow money. They do not reflect any back end. There's 5 times what those numbers are on the back end of a lot of those deals sitting there. And here's the crazy thing. When I have money coming in every month on them, some of those deals, the money that people owe me hasn't changed every single month, but the money that I owe on the properties continues to go down every single month. So my back end continues to get larger and larger and larger. And this is a good thing when your ass end grows really big. So, but anyway, Maurice, I can't tell you what you'll be like in 2 years because I don't know your financial situation. But I do know this. Every deal you put in place is going to be a positive one, making you money, unless there's some crazy, off-the-wall, weird alien ship flying in causing some crazy thing that nobody could have ever predicted was going to happen. But no, this is an easy way to make money, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to do it, and it's plenty of income for you.
All right, we got a message here, Joe, saying thank you. You've done an awesome job, and if there aren't any more questions, oh, another one just came on in. So if you have any more questions, feel free to go ahead and put them into the question box, and we'll get them answered for you. And this one comes from Andrew. He says, do you have another in-person class scheduled for after this month?
Now, what we do, remember, I'm not an information marketing company that like lists 6 training sessions over a period of a year of this kind of training and another 6 for that training and 1 for this one and all that. I'm not an information marketing company. I'm a real estate investor teaching you how to do what it is you want to learn how to do because I do it all the time. Okay, so I am as close to the real deal as you can find out there. But we try to do this kind of an event every 2 to 4 months. It just depends on how busy I am in my real estate investing business as to, okay, is it time to go ahead and do another one? Are we ready to do another one? Do we have the time to spend to market to get a whole bunch of people? If you notice, I didn't market this at all. I mean, we put a couple of posts on Facebook and I think on LinkedIn, and I don't know if anything got mailed out to anyone else or anything because we don't do that stuff. We're not information marketers. We're not the guys that are out there, sucking money out of people for information that sounds good but may or may not work. We're the guys that we really do this stuff, and this is how it works because we show it every day by doing it, and then we let you learn from us by seeing what it is we're doing. Imagine if I'm teaching somebody how to do underwater welding, and I do it in a classroom inside of a regular building, and we talk about it for a month. Do you know how to be an underwater welder? No, you know a bunch of theory about it. Now, if I'm in a scuba diving outfit and we're underneath the water and I'm welding and you're there with me, and then I'm putting the welding rod in your hand for you to physically do it underwater with me, now are you all of a sudden starting to learn how to be an underwater welder? So you're underwater with me. You're learning how to be that underwater welder. You're learning how to be that real estate investor because I'm doing it and I'm making you do it right there with me. I'm trying to force your success. I'll take my size 14 and keep it right there where the sun doesn't shine as long as you let me to do it until you succeed. That's who I am, and that's what I try to do while I'm doing my deals with you. So I'm not going to listen to a bunch of crybaby stuff because I'm physically doing it, and you can too if you just do what I'm doing. Gosh, I don't know why the hell I keep getting on these tangents, Ryan. What's wrong with me?
I don't know. He's like an angry man.
I just want people to succeed. I absolutely love it when people succeed, and I feel sorry for them when they don't, and I scold them for the things that I can see that's, getting in the way and all that kind of stuff. And, the truth is, this business is not for every person. That's the God's honest truth. But it's a real easy business to do, and only you, looking in the mirror at yourself, can decide whether you're that person or not. I have a sister who has a hard time trying to do this business. She's very smart. This woman is one of the smartest people I know, and she just makes this business so complicated. So here's a little tip for you. When you come to my training or you do the home study, dumb it down. Dumb it down. That's what's going to take you a whole lot less time to accomplish what you're trying to get done, and make the money off of it by not making it so hard. Don't overthink it. Don't overcomplicate it. It's a very easy, simple 6th grade level education doing it. Okay?
You know what? I want to piggyback on that because that was one of my challenges when I first started, Joe, and you told me that. But I'm such a proud man. I'm like, hey, you know what? I gotta I felt like I had to overcompensate for my lack of deals, my lack of experience, that I needed to sound more sophisticated to these buyers or these sellers that I was working with to kind of, puff up my chest a little bit, like I know more than you.
Yeah, and see that, the truth is, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but the truth is, you're going to scare people away by doing that. So the less intimidating you are, the more likely they are to deal with you. If you look fancy and you talk fancy, you're going to scare them, and the first thing in their mind, this is my negotiations 101. This is not negotiations you'll learn out there anywhere else, but my negotiations 101 is let them think they're smarter than you. That means that their wall is down, and now you can just negotiate with them. They're not worried about what's it going to cost me to deal with this guy because he's smarter than me. It scares them. So if you can just be a simple, listen to how I'm acting. I made a mistake. I ran forward on slides when I wasn't supposed to, and I had to try to figure out how to go backwards. I'm hoping that my 20-year-old daughter, who's sitting right across from me, can go and fix the problem that I just caused, because I can do 15 $100,000 real estate deals in a short period of time, but to run that damn simple-ass computer, it just is a complicated thing to me. Dumb it down, make it simple, and don't try to overthink anything, and don't try to impress anybody with your knowledge. Just be relaxed and calm. I can help you, and it won't cost you a dime to the seller. Mr. Buyer, I can get you your American dream of home ownership without you being embarrassed or humiliated. It's as simple as that.
That's so true. Okay, we got Chris. He says thank you, Joe, for your passion. Andrew says, this sounds great. Thank you so much. And then George also says, thank you, Joe, and I'll see you next week.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Ryan, is that everyone?
I think that's it. Yeah, if there are no other questions, we'll go ahead.
They can just email them if they need to. All right, so go to the website, getmyjumpstartnow.com. You can do it that way, or if you want to, if you'd rather do it with a live person, you can make a phone call to our office at 912-395-8883. You can talk to one of my staff. They can answer some more questions that you may have. There's something really good and positive about talking to an individual who sees it happening every day. And I want you to take that as a lesson also. The people that are my buyers and my sellers, there's no virtual assistants and all that garbage. I don't believe in that either, because I want my buyers and my sellers to feel like I'm a mom and pop organization, and that they can reach out and touch that person they talk to on the phone or on email. They're coming in with that live person who's right in the same neighborhood, knows the schools, knows what's going on with the kids, knows where the newest Walmart was just built, knows where everything that's going on in that community. They're right there, so it gives people a much warm, fuzzy feeling. Same thing in my training side. You can reach out and you can talk to us, and we'll handle it manually right over the phone. Doesn't bother us in the slightest bit. Okay, well, I guess I will say good night then, Ryan, if there's nothing else.
That's it, Joe. Thanks again.
All right, good night, everyone.